Hello, hello. We're back. Okay, bet you didn't know that we were going to be here tonight. Hello, everybody. What's up? Welcome back to the Roomies Digest. Of course, that's the channel that you're on. My name's Christine. I'm one half of the Roomies, and these are my cohorts, my partners in bookish reading. I was going to say crime, but then I was like, let's not spread that rumor around. Okay. And we are going to be talking about the ACOTAR series today. Say good soup. We're going to be talking about good soup, but also hello. And I was telling them before the live started. Actually, you guys want to introduce yourselves? Sorry. Rude.
Oh, sure.
Rude.
How rude.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, what's up? I'm Catherine from the channel. I don't know. I was trying to do your energy, match your energy.
I like it.
Can't. Anyway.
I'm just hyper all the time.
Can't. It is 10 o'clock at night for me. Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm from the channel Bookishly Catherine. Had a little rebranding moment.
Hard launch.
Oh. Do I say anything else?
You can do rating of the book if you've got a rating, but I know you don't. So
I don't do ratings, but I can tell you last time I read this book was in 2021. And I was going through it this time, 2024, going through it in different ways, and it's still a great time. There we go.
2024. That's crazy.
Hi, I'm Steph.
Hi, I'm Steph.
When did I read these? Back in, I guess 2017.
Yeah, whenever they came out, probably.
Yeah.
And I've reread ACOMAF like many, many times. This is my first time
40.
Yeah, 40. And this is my first time ever rereading ACOTAR. So that was an interesting time that I had.
Mm-hmm. It was a time.
Yeah, I would say that the first one I still give it 3 stars. It's decent, you know. And the second one I still give it 5 stars. It still gives me feels. Still my favorite. Although I feel like my opinions on characters have definitely changed, and my 5 stars isn't for the same reasons that it was back in the day.
I can't wait to get into it. Okay. I have had what I feel a renaissance of sorts of my brain. Okay. I just have some controversial opinions, I think, that we'll get into.
Me and Christina are about to get into a fight.
What? What do you mean?
I don't know. I just feel like
she feels the energy.
What do you mean we're gonna fight? We're not gonna fight. We're not gonna fight. Okay. But I do have some conversation topics that I think we need to address. You know what I mean? Hey.
Hi, Jared's hand.
I was like, what's happening? He like turns on the lights.
He just got home.
He's like, hello. I want you to know I'm here.
Ah, yes, the cadre. We are a cadre.
We are.
I don't know what cadre really means, but
like you're like close group.
You're blood sworn to me.
Yeah, you're band. Yeah, you know, like throwing a glass, like your buds.
Yeah, I mean, I know the
inner circle,
glass, but inner circle.
No, you guys are blood sworn to. We're blood sworn to each other. That's
God.
That's what the ritual was. Wait a minute.
Oh, I was wondering what was going on.
Right? I love this. Your legion, your band of fellows, your team, your band of ladies. These are my ladies.
my females.
My females. Okay, yeah. Let's not, contain ourselves to just being humans. Okay, we can be fae.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can be fairies. Hello, Eve. How are you? Hello. What did you guys rate the book if you rated? Okay, drop it in the comments. Let us know. Did you like it? Did you hate it? We're going to be talking about the first book and then the second book. So let's, we'll get to the second book ratings and feelings and things like that. But for the time being, look at her. She's like, I am a Court of Mist and Fury. For the time being, we'll talk. Yeah.
Hold on.
Do it.
I don't think I can.
You're almost there. Oh, no.
I'm trying to help you with my eyes. I'm like, yes.
It's not working. Your face a little bit.
It's like a...
Yeah. Okay, then move it to, yep. A little over. I don't know if that's your right or left. Oh, yeah, you're going right. Down a little bit. Down. Oh, I think a little bit up. Tiny bit up.
Up a little? Up a little more? To your right?
Yeah, okay,
right. Oh my God, we were so close. It was like a game of Tetris.
Like this,
because I can't like see my screen.
Yeah, so. Where it is.
It was like that far away from being correct.
Too bad.
Close. I mean, it looked pretty on the nose, almost like just a little. Yes. I think we can all probably agree in this comment.
Well, it starts as a decrease. I wouldn't say enjoyment, sure. Yeah.
I mean, should we just talk about both of them at the same time? Like, I don't know. What do we think?
No, let's start with ACOTAR.
I'm like, let's be chaotic.
Let's start with ACOTAR.
All right. Juicy discussion incoming. Oh, okay, yes, Legion or harem together. These are my ladies. I didn't mean it to come off in a weird way, but obviously everything I say is a little off. I don't have ratings, but ACOTAR is my least favorite Sarah J. Maas book.
Ooh. I don't know if I agree with that one.
Mine is Frost and Starlight.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we count that one, I feel like a lot of people also don't like Wings and Ruin.
I don't mind Frost and Starlight for what it was.
I mean, it's a novella.
Weird. Yeah. I feel like maybe one of the Throne of Glasses is my favorite or least favorite.
Just kidding.
Oh, God. Just kidding.
It's because I'm a romance girly.
Yeah. There is a stark difference between this series and the series we just completed, Throne of Glass. I say this all the time, but I really do feel like she was so tired of writing that like high fantasy, no romance, that like she was like, ACOTAR will be my romantic character-based series. Plot out the window. You know what I mean? Like, what does it mean?
I mean, I think there's a plot, but
let's talk about it. When we get to Silver Flames, we will address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Surprised how much I still enjoyed it. I think my love for ACOMAF and On makes me forget how the first one is good. Wait, what the? I can't even read.
Forget
the first one is good. Right?
Yeah. I agree with that one, with that statement.
Yes.
Because like this one is like significantly better.
Yes.
I still had a great time with this one.
Court of Thorns and Roses. Yeah, I think like I would say I think I enjoyed it on a 4-star level. It's like close to a 4. It's like 3.54. Because it was a little bogged down, but also I was enjoying the reread of it. Because at this point I've read ACOTAR 3 times now. And I feel like in my reread of it the second time, I was super bored. I was just like, God, get to the juice. But I feel like in the third reread, I really had a chance to like analyze characters and analyze what was going on in the plot because you already kind of know it so well, right?
Yeah.
So in this one, I think that's why I had a lot more fun with it because I was like, oh, I don't have to like pay attention because I already know what's going to happen. So now I can just really analyze the POVs and kind of like what's going on between characters and stuff.
I think I really struggle with, because like I think Catherine and I's opinions on this make sense because Catherine is more of a romance person, which I love romance in books, but I also like when I know it's a fantasy, but I guess the problem I have with the series is that like when I went into it, I didn't know much about fantasy romance, like the first time I ever read it. And I'm not sure that fantasy romance in 2017 was as like prevalent and had a good backlist like it does now. So like I think I just like, despite reading a lot of fantasy romance now, I still kind of look at this book as just a fantasy book. And I get really bogged down by pacing and by the fact that the world building is bad. I think it's really bad for me personally. But that's just coming from a place of like reading a lot of fantasy and like having certain expectations of fantasy and world building. So that's like my bias that I'm putting on it. So I think that like our opinions make sense and our ratings make sense a lot.
Yeah. I do agree. And I don't think she wrote it in a way where like the fantasy world building elements are easy to digest. Like I think she wrote it in a way where like Feyre is experiencing this world for the first time. And so everything that she experiences is like us being told it for the first time.
Well, yeah, because there's like that moment when Alice she's
just like word vomiting.
Yeah, she word vomits an entire like world building moment. And I was like, why weren't we just getting this
the whole time?
Why did we get one moment before she's about to go under the mountain and like sacrifice her life?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of info dumping for sure. I don't know. I like in my reread of this one, I very much just felt the like, because it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And like, I feel like this one, because like some of her other books, people have been like, oh, it's this retelling. It's a, Throne of Glass is kind of a Cinderella-esque retelling. This one is like the truest to being a fairy tale retelling, I would say. Yeah. And I just really like it. It feels so much more of that like fairy tale vibe to me.
Yes.
And it has like a lot more of that like
magic
and like kind of the vibes are just so loud. It's just so much more like fairy tale. Like it feels like someone's telling me a fable until we get to Under the Mountain, and then things start a little crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, Throne of Glass feels like a medieval tale, right? You've got magic in there, but there are definitely rules with that magic system, and it's rules that we don't really understand, like at all. Like just with like the spirits and the word keys and like things like that. It's a whole completely different magic system to this one, where it's basically like ACOTAR. It's not even just, I think, Beauty and the Beast retelling. Like there are so many influences from other things in this book that like as we're reading it, I'm just like, this is from Star Wars, this is from da-da-da, you know what I mean? It just like is so funny to me. Even like the cauldron magic system reminds me of this movie that I used to watch when I was a kid called The Black Cauldron, and essentially it's you guys have seen this movie, right? And so I'm just like, Sarah J, you are so funny for this. But it does seem like, obviously, as we're starting out with like this Beauty and the Beast retelling, it sticks pretty close to it, right, for a retelling. And also it does feel more magical because you're in like a forest and you're going through the forest to this magical, kingdom where everything is springtime and lovely. And then obviously develops, like Steph said, Under the Mountain and all the stuff under there. But interestingly enough, you don't even really know what that stuff is until like well into the book. Because there's this veil of like, obviously they're wearing masks and you don't know why they're wearing masks, but also they can't talk about it.
It's so funny. Like every time that I think about this book, like the mask thing does not register in my brain.
Yeah, you're like, oh, they don't have masks.
And imagine trying to wash your face. Like, God.
I think about all this time, like for 50 years, these dudes have not seen their face. Like they've got to have masks.
Hasn't been able to like scratch their nose properly. Like
masquerade. Baby.
My wish with the mask thing is like, obviously that's the like, oh, masks instead of like him being an ugly beast or whatever. And I'm like, Sarah, you should have just, why not just make him a beast? Like,
yeah.
Maybe it's the monster romance lover in me, but have you ever thought about keeping him with the claws?
Okay. Interesting that you're saying this. Okay, let's talk about it. So Tamlin, we're gonna do some summary stuff, but you guys have read it, so you already know, right? So she goes to Tamlin's, kingdom because she's got to fulfill this life debt. Okay, we already know, if we know anything about Fae, they definitely are not supposed to lie. But like in this world, all the rules are changing. Okay, Sarah J. Maas has done something with this, has changed the game. Okay, so everything you thought you knew about a Fae, forget it. Iron, ha, no. Lying, they can do it. Things like that. So I think it's interesting that in this Beauty and the Beast retelling, she goes back with Tamlin. Tamlin is a beast, right? But really, he's presented in this book as this beautiful man. He's just this beautiful man. He saved her from this hovel that she used to live in. He's provided for her family now. And he is the real deal, y'all. Like, he is the Prince Charming. Nice, shiny, new. Okay. But really underneath, it's that temper. It's that beast. It's like almost the opposite of what the Beauty and the Beast's like message was, right? It's like beyond the beast, there's this wonderful human being. And in this book, it's like beyond this wonderful looking human being, there is actually a beast that's like a not horrible person, but like he definitely has some issues going on, Yeah, let me go to my notes here. Okay. Let me go to my notes. So we start off in, this is one that I always want to talk about. It's Feyre's family lets the youngest person in the family provide for them, right? How do we feel about that?
I mean, pretty messed up.
And what are our initial reactions to this family?
And I'm trying not to let like what I know like happens in the future cloud any of my like opinions of just based on like the info we get on this book, because obviously I've read ahead, so I know. But like it's just so messed up that Feyre, being the youngest, is like, what, we need to eat and no one else is stepping up. So I guess I'm going to be the one to step up. And I feel like we see that then come through a couple different, like when she like goes under the mountain, she's like, what, I'm going to be the one, like no one else is breaking this curse. People are just letting it happen. I'll be the one to break this curse. Like, I don't know.
I think that Sarah set up Feyre in the very beginning to show us that is kind of a personality trait of hers. She's kind of the person that steps up and sort of is the savior within whatever situation. And I think that's really important for ACOMAF because of what we see happening in ACOMAF. And like, it's obviously that healing is related to things that happen under the mountain, but I think it goes beyond that. I think that we have been set up to see Feyre as this young child who is acting as a mother, basically, but not only to her sisters, but also her father, because he is a piece of crap as well. And just like,
so geeky, dude. Like the dad is due to the do.
Yeah. And so I think that, her character setup is kind of important once you know what happens further into the book. And like, that's not even talking about ACOWAR either, like what happens in ACOMAF. I think looking at this setup, it feels really important, even though at the beginning I'm like, these people suck. Like, get out of there. Just go. Like, you would think sometimes in ways that because Feyre is so resourceful that she would just like get out of there and like figure it out on her own. But she doesn't, because she like really fiercely loves people and doesn't give up on people, which again, I think is an important setup to her character.
Yes. That, and I feel like when I was reading it this time, I paid a lot of attention to the interactions between her family in this like first kind of segment, because I was like, let me see, because I mean, I don't know. We've all read this series, so we all kind of know where it goes, right? But I was like, what was the dad doing? Because every time I think about this, I'm like, he was whittling some wood. Like, what was he doing? He couldn't go into the town and like, I don't know, like be a barkeep or something. Like, I don't know. You know, in this economy, I get it. It's hard to find a job. We understand, but like, certain people are really just gonna whittle wood for your whole life? Like, I don't understand. And so I kind of was also paying attention to like her relationship with Elaine and her relationship with Nesta, and like how these personalities all kind of come together under this roof. And I do think it's like interesting that she has this like ominous kind of like promise with her mother before her mother dies, which is like, she's like, take care of them, you know? And you're like, why was the mom, you know, asking the youngest daughter to do this? So maybe it is something kind of like Steph says, is like this characteristic of Feyre always being the one who has to sacrifice. Maybe that's something that people have always seen in her, or at least her family at this point. And they know that about her. Maybe that's, you know, what that is. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I think too, like, this is a weird thing to say, and I'm not trying to get personal on a random book thing, but like, as somebody who's been through really intense loss, like, I can understand when a family member sees, like, during a time when maybe they're gonna pass away or whatever, when they see that like the rest of the family can't actually handle the grief of it, and that there is one person in that family that kind of has to carry them and carry that burden. And reading it this time around, I really like honed in on that, and the fact that like, I just don't think that knowing the characters, and especially like, I haven't even read Silver Flame, and I'm not trying to get into that, but like, I kind of know the gist of it. Like, knowing even that, you can see why her sisters and her father weren't the ones that the mom was like, you should take care of the family. I think she saw that like Feyre was the one that could keep it together, and that's not fair and it's not right, but I think that I've seen that mimicked in real life before, that
you know who the strongest person is.
Yeah.
Like, I think they all are strong in their own ways. I say they all, I'm trying not to single people out, but like, they all have their things, right? And I think because we've seen Nesta's book, right? We know a lot more about her. Because we haven't seen Elaine's book, we don't necessarily know her POV during this time. So like, it's interesting. That's why this read was interesting to me, because I have read Nesta's. I am now like honing in on everything she's saying in like these books. And so it'll be the same way when Elaine's book comes out, right? Because then we'll kind of have that POV. And I think, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but like, POV for Sarah J. Maas is so important, because that is how the audience, like the person consuming the book, sees the story and the truth of that story, right? But then obviously when the POV changes, that's how the story can kind of like change, and like the POV obviously changes. So I think it's so interesting that Sarah made ACOTAR single POV. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're experiencing the story for the first time, and like, you're trying to like experience it as Feyre. But obviously as we go forward, you get more and more POVs.
I also think it was important for everything that happens with Tamlin.
Yes, because you have to experience what she goes through. And it's interesting too, because she goes with Tamlin, okay? And Tamlin is pampering her, okay? He's like, look, I know you don't want to be here, but look, I got you some fuzzy dresses. You know, we have a nice little garden.
Fuzzy dresses.
Yeah. You know, and I've got this really cool best friend who's got one eye. And like, is it pirate energy? Yeah. but like he's my bestie, and you know, you guys might get along. I don't know. Okay. Arguably, Lucian is one of my favorite characters. This is like a controversial opinion because I know a lot of people don't like him.
I loved him up until the last book.
Up until he does some kooky stuff in ACOMAF, right? I'm still waiting for his redemption arc. We'll see. But in ACOTAR, I loved him. I was like, Lucian's here.
Yeah, I love him in ACOTAR. In ACOMAF, I want to fight him.
Yeah.
And then things change, but.
Right, obviously. But also, like, his POV is interesting, right? Because he is, you know, as a character, he is from an entirely different court. He's basically like an orphan of sorts, right? Because he's been abandoned by his entire, like, line. And he is a guest at the Spring Court. And as much as him and Tamlin are like besties, Tamlin is definitely that guy who does not like anyone to go against what he's saying. He is, my word is law, and my dad did it this way. My dad's dad did it this way. Gosh darn it, we're going to do it exactly how they did it. You know what I mean? The tie? Yes. Yes. We will be getting our money in 3 days' time or else. The gavel. And so he's just such an interesting character because his whole relationship with Feyre, like, how did you guys experience that in this reread? Like, when they start feeling each other, how do we feel about that? Okay, because it happens pretty quickly, I think, in this first one.
Yeah, I mean, with the reread and knowing like what's going to happen, obviously reading it is like a little bit tainted.
Yes.
But also, like, you can see why Feyre immediately like starts to develop those feelings, because she's never been taken care of. Like, she's always been the one taking care of people, like y'all were saying before. Yeah, because her family is ass.
Family is ass.
Literally. Yeah. But yeah, so to have someone who like is finally, like you said, pampering her and taking care of her, and, you know, oh, you can paint all day long if you want to. Like,
yeah, be a housewife.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't been like, oh man, if only I could just be a housewife.
Right? Don't we all want to be that person? And for a while, she wants to be that person. Yeah. She wants to be taken care of. But it's like, as soon as she kind of gets some food in her stomach, it's almost as if this mind fog goes away, and she's like, well, what else is there? Okay, like, what? I can't even like go riding out like on the fields by myself. Like, I used to be out in these woods tracking all kinds of stuff. Okay, don't tell me what I can and can't do, Sir High Lord. Of course, she doesn't know any of the politics, so she just assumes that Sherman, please, sorry, scratching on my couch, that little demon. She doesn't know any of the politics. She doesn't really understand. She just thinks everybody, you know, he's obviously the High Lord, and okay, sorry, he's scratching again. He's obviously the High Lord, and she doesn't really understand the nuances, here we go, of court politics. And I feel like it's so interesting to see the different courts, just like compared to ACOTAR and ACOMAF, because I feel like the Spring Court is really just like lulu la la, like they just have people in and out, you know, they're introducing themselves, and Feyre's like, I don't know who your friends are, I don't care. And I feel like, I'm like, Feyre, isn't this an indication if you don't care who these people are? Like,
but I feel like that's a reflection of Tamlin too. Like, Tamlin doesn't have friends. He's not trusting. He doesn't have friends. He's not like, I think this is my other problem with ACOTAR, which I'm glad that we're talking about the romance, because obviously like a huge part of this series is the romantic tension and like who does she end up with and whatever. I think I struggle with this first book because even my first time reading it, I didn't really like Tamlin. I just didn't fall for him the same way. Like I understood as
they were together.
Yeah, I understood as a reader like why they would be together and why she would have feelings for him. And like at points in time, I was like, maybe it's because I'm not a self-insert type of girl. Like I don't self-insert in books. And so maybe it's just that like, I don't know, but I'm usually rooting for a couple, I guess. That's the thing.
Right.
Like when I read, I love romance because I'm like rooting so hard for couples. And I don't know, I just like was never rooting for them even from the start. And so rereading it was also harder because I never really fell or enjoyed that relationship as it was unfolding. It was kind of just like yeah, I understand why she would seek this type of protection and this type of getting taken care of when that's never happened before. But you slowly see like where he's so overprotective of things to a point where it's like he's sort of, what would you call it? Like she's trapped in ways.
Yeah.
Like she has no freedom.
It's overbearing.
Yeah, and it's like she truly had no freedom, but there was like this illusion of freedom. And it was really interesting. So I just never really liked him, and I just didn't really like his personality or anything. I felt like for me, like the saving grace of that was the relationship between Lucian and Farah because I really enjoyed them as friends. But Tamlin has always kind of been a character to me where I was like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, and I think you're not supposed to in this first one. Like their love is carnal. Like it's very much just kind of like two bodies coming together.
So I kept on thinking about that person who got the Tamlin tattoo.
Oh my God.
I should have told them. That's all I have to say. I'm like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. No, I find their relationship interesting because I mean, the first time I read it was back in like 2018. And I remember really like vibing with it at the beginning until we get to the Under the Mountain part. Because when we get to Under the Mountain, I'm like, stand up. Fight for your girl. Like, what are you doing? God. There's being like calculating and not wanting to show Amarantha like how much you care, but like at this point she knows.
That's the whole thing about him. That is the whole crux of him is like being a rule follower to the point where he is abusive to other people and cannot for the life of him have a normal relationship with anyone because he just like, I don't know. It's just like something about like everything is politics. Everything is this way. If we don't do it this way, then this is going to happen. And I understand that it comes from like this trauma of everything that happened with his mom and like how his dad, after all of that, treated him and his family and stuff. But it's like, come on. I don't know. He was just so frustrating. So this reread was even more frustrating because it's like, you know, where things are going and you see, I think there was more of an emphasis for me on these like little moments that felt so abusive.
I actually love that we're talking about this because Tamlin's character is so interesting to me. I know he is the worst, but like his background, right? So he's not even trained to be a leader, like at all. He is trained on the battlefield, and him being thrust into this role because of the events, like we find out in ACOMAF, right? He's underprepared for everything. So when I think about Tamlin being in charge, he's doing everything. He even says in the book, like, this is how my father did it, right? This is how it is done. And it's because he doesn't understand, like, that he has his own kind of, like he is trapped in some ways, right? In this, like, perpetual, like, spring where nothing ever changes and you're always doing what your father did. And, like, you also have gone through your own trauma of losing your entire family. And the only person that you really like have is like Lucian, your BFF, but like, don't let him say anything to you. Cause if you do, the claws are coming out, you know, or like he loses his temper or whatever. So I think like Tamlin sucks, but I am also like rooting for him to have a character arc by the end of this series that's better than what we get. Because I do want him to have that, but he does suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree that, like, even though I find him to be very insufferable and it's like frustrating to watch what plays out, I can recognize how he got to that point, you know? And I think that, like, the difference between him and Farrah is that Farrah takes that and becomes a different person. Like, the abuse and the things that have happened to her, I do think that they are an interesting, like, dichotomy in general, because if you look at when we get to ACOMAF, like at the end of ACOMAF, these two characters, the way that they've both endured like so much trauma and like loss and abuse and whatever, but who they become at the end of that is so vastly different. And I think that's an interesting contrast. And I do hope that, like, at the end of the entirety of the series that we see something different for Tamlin, because I do understand that a lot of who he is rooted in what happened to him when he was younger.
Yeah, and just being like underprepared. Like, I don't know, something in this reread, y'all, like maybe because I knew what was happening. Like, I knew what was going to happen to Farrah and him. I don't know, something like made me more empathetic to him. I was like, dang, this dude never had a chance. Like, his whole family got killed and he just doesn't even know what he's doing. Like, it's I don't want to say pathetic, but it's not well.
They need to get a therapist in there.
Yeah. They need one. He needs to get on the medical. You know what I'm saying?
Because all of them have had trauma.
Literally.
Yeah. I feel like Tamlin is the epitome of like lawfully neutral. Like, when looking at those like charts, you know, there's the like chaotic good and blah, this. He's like lawfully neutral. He's like, this is the way it's done, and it doesn't matter how it affects other people. This is just what we do.
Right. Which is different, I think, than Lucien, because I think Lucien gets a lot of hate in this series too. But in this first book, he at least feels like it's not right. But for Lucien, I think he's like, I'm not a high lord, so I can't do anything. You know, like, it's obviously messed up because, like, in the grand scheme of things, you as the reader want him to help her. But in the reality, it's like, okay, if you do this, this is treason. And knowing who Tamlin is, like, yeah, Lucien is his best friend, but he would have suffered horrible consequences. And Lucien's already lost an eye. Okay.
Well, the thing about Lucien for me is that, like, while I have issues with him as a character and like decisions that he's made, I do think that, like, he ultimately was seeking refuge with the only friend that he kind of had, because he's such an outcast. And, like, obviously we know everything with his family and like why he lost his eye and et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think it's harder for me to dislike him and get mad about his decisions, because I understand that, like, he's trying to cling on to the one person that has actually been there for him. And, like, I think Farrah sees that and realizes at some point, like, that can't be me.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I think, like, it's interesting. I like what Ash said, actually, about how Tamlin takes this trauma and uses it to justify his bad decisions.
Yeah. He's like, you just know how I get sometimes, Farrah. I can't control it. And you're like, go run a lap around.
Yeah.
Go get some water.
Like, literally everyone in this book has had trauma. Like,
right? Exactly. I'm like,
and they are acting like assholes.
Got an eye. Okay. Lucien literally got his eyes scooped out for you. So please. Don't talk to me. I know.
Farrah literally died.
Literally died for you. Okay.
So
please, you know, and he's just, I don't know. He just wants to run the household, but not really run the household. Okay. Don't get it twisted.
Well, he just gets worse, you know, and worse with the more trauma that happens to him.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Lucian is flawed, but he also, like, I definitely agree with what you said, Steph, where it's like, he doesn't have a court at this point. And like, if you don't have a court in this world, you're screwed.
Dead.
Like there's no way you can live or survive.
Yeah, especially with his brothers out to get him at any point in time. You know what I mean? And they're not just like these skinny little twigs. You know, these men are crazy. These males, excuse me, they're crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Excuse me. Let me be.
Get it right.
It's male or female.
Yeah, honestly. So interestingly enough, let's go on into the plot. So Tamlin sucks, but he does try to get her out of there. Okay. He is like, look, go home.
He's just dumb.
You're never gonna love me, so go home.
He's just dumb. He's dumb. He's not cunning. He's just not.
He's not. Bless his heart. You know what I mean? And it's so crazy because as she's leaving, like the whole point, it's Beauty and the Beast, right? She's supposed to fall in love with him and say, I love you. I-L-Y. That's all she has to say. I-L-Y. Okay.
Really?
She gets in the carriage and he's like, Feyre, I love you so much, baby girl. I'll see you on the other side, you know, da 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 da. And she's like, I can't say it. I cannot say it. So then, you know, she rides off and Lucian's looking at her like, all you had to do was say, I love you. And then we get these freaking masks off our faces, you know? and it's not until she goes back home and she shows up and they have like a nice fancy house. You know, Elaine's like, let me show you into our foyer. Look at all these stuff we have. Have you guys seen the new garden that I created in the dead of winter? Isn't this so fun? You know, it's not until she gets there and she kind of sees the way Tamlin has taken care of her family and she steps back from it and she's like, wait, do I love this man? And it goes back to that theme of being taken care of, right? Provided for. She feels it's not even love really. She just feels like she maybe owes him, feels guilty for leaving. And she's like, I got to figure this out. I can't leave my man's. He's going to die. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know what's happening. None of us know what's happening as the readers at this point, but probably my favorite part of that book, one of my favorite parts, you know, because Nesta's my girly. She comes in and she's like, Nesta, why do you have a stank look on your face? And Nesta's like, oh, that little mind trick thing.
Sorry.
Huh?
I said, because I'm a stank bitch.
Because I am a stank bitch. But also, that little mind trick your little beastie tried to do on me, yeah, that was some bullshit. Okay? Capital T at the end of that. All right? Dad and Elaine might be stupid, but I am Nesta. And I know that this was all fake. So I don't know what lie you told people, but like, you need to tell me the truth right now. And it's in this moment that I'm like, yes, Nesta, you are just, I'm fangirling. I'm like, tell her who you are, bitch. Tell her who you are. And then she realizes Nesta also went after her. She like,
yeah.
Sister. Nesta, who does not even chop wood. I mean, she did chop wood eventually. Like, she is like Elaine is like a spring girly girl. Nesta is like the city girly girl. She's like the girl who's going to read a good book and have her wine. And she's not really going to lift a finger. Okay. She doesn't want to do that. So like for her to have gone to try and find her sister, and she was out there for days scouring, trying to find the rip in the like in the wall.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Only to come back and be like, well, I can't freaking find her. So what am I going to do? She's probably dead, you know, whatever. I thought that part was like so important for their relationship because Feyre up until this point is like, Nesta hates me. Nesta hates me. She doesn't care if I live or die. My family doesn't really care. No one tried to write me a letter. You never wrote me. That kind of a thing.
I wrote you for 300.
Yeah. Anyway. End of book. Nesta is a bad bitch. Honestly, I when I was tabbing it, it's like, I think it's chapter 28 or 29. And I said this exact sentence. I didn't say end of book, but I said, Nesta is a bad bee. Okay. But anyway, after she talks to her, that's when she's like, yeah, you should probably go back and save your husband or whatever he is to you. Yeah. It's just funny. Like, Nesta just makes me laugh because she's like, yeah, why did you come back, you weirdo? Why would you leave?
It did make me cackle. I was like, yeah.
She is a real housewife. Yeah. Leaves the Spring Court and comes to the Real Housewives of the Mortal Lands.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
She comes back to like some Bridgerton shenanigans.
Elaine really is like that hostess, okay? It's just, she was so funny to me. She's just la-la-laing like around the house, showing Feyre all the cool stuff they have. And I'm like, is Elaine not the youngest one? Like, she just gives younger.
She does. I feel like Feyre gives middle child.
Yes. It's so crazy how that's written, but I mean, it is what it is. You don't have to be the stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be, but
you don't have to be the middle child. Like, you
could.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but whatever. So one of the reasons why Tamlin sends her is because of Rhys, right? So Rhys shows up and he is the most beautiful male she's ever seen.
Yeah, okay. He is.
And you know, I think that's funny a little because she actually hasn't seen Tamlin's face, so like she don't know what that fool looks like. He could be an ogre under there, you know. Granted, the mask is only like this little, but like whatever.
I know every time.
Like, I'm literally picturing like the teeniest, tiny.
He's a thief. He's got thief goggles.
I always picture him as this, and I'm like, girl, you basically know what his face. He's not Phantom of the Opera. Like, please.
Also, even then, the mask as the way of torturing people. Like, oh, you are stuck wearing a mask your whole life.
I know. Ooh, Amarantha, you weirdo! Like, what was that?
Like,
so funny.
That's what I mean. Where I just like at some point, I had to just like laugh a little bit at the world building.
Yeah. Well, there are other parts of it because he does have the Heart of Stone.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
But everyone got a mask, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone
she
who was
knew
there.
Those arched brows would be on a pretty face.
His hair is long and pretty. He's there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, Rhys. Okay,
Rhys.
One of the reasons she leaves is because Rhys shows up and Tamlin gets a little freaky. Okay, he's like, "Oh my god, my property, my girl is going to be taken by this guy who's like 20,000 times stronger than me. I've got to get her out of here. You know, he's evil. He's working for Amarantha." And Feyre's like, "Amarantha? Who's that?" And then he's like, "Oh, I said too much. You've got to go. Get out of here, girl. Go on, get." So, you know, all that being said, this isn't the first time she's seen Rhys. She sees him at Calanmai, which is one of the many, many Fae holidays. This is a more carnal holiday. It's a more physical holiday in the sense of, you know, to have crops for spring, they've got to essentially do a sex dance to like get the magic going.
Sex dance.
Right?
They got to use the sex energy.
Right. They have to create new energy. Like, you know, or I guess you can't create energy. You've just got to take energy from something else to put it into the ground. And so, of course, Feyre has no idea. She's just a lowly human, okay? She doesn't know squat from diddly, okay? And the one rule that they say is don't go out on Calanmai. Just don't do it. Just stay inside. You can have your cookies and your painting, whatever you do. Feyre, if that even is your name. No, I'm just kidding. But they're like, don't go out on Calanmai. So of course she goes out because she can't be told what to do. And honestly, in this moment, I'm like, maybe I am Feyre. Maybe I would have stepped out. So I'm like, what's out there? I'm hearing weird noises. It's sounding crazy. It sounds like a party, you know? And that's when she meets Rhys, the king of darkness and despair. And also realizes that Tamlin does some very illicit activities to get that magic.
Yeah, he does.
He's got that D swinging.
Yeah. The whole thing is just so weird. I'm like, what is happening in the house?
Based on a Roman tradition.
Yeah, very Roman, very orgy-esque, except it's not really, I guess, because he only picks like one person.
But then everyone else does their thing, and yeah, she uses a lot of different things all mixed together. And then she'll use the thing, she always does this where she uses a line from a great movie or book.
Oh, she said
everyone credits her.
Or not 1,000 times, yes.
No, with this one, it's when Reese goes, there you are, I've been looking for you. It's Howl's Moving Castle.
Mm-hmm. I thought she also did Pride and Prejudice, though.
I don't know. I just know that one. It's like that one's Howl's Moving Castle. She has in Throne of Glass that you're gonna rattle the stars, which is Treasure Planet. That's a Treasure Planet quote.
She leaves these crumbs for us to eat. Okay. She's like, I want to tell you guys what all my favorite things are, and it's gonna be quotes from other things. The Howl's Moving Castle meet cute. Oof. One of the best meet cutes. I'm telling you. The way he comes out of nowhere, I'm like, Howl, be less hot. Okay. You're a literary generation and it's hurting me. But
then Reese does the same thing where it's like she's being harassed by a couple of males.
Yeah. Yeah. And he comes in and he's like, Howl. Yeah. Is your name Reese or Howl?
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Yeah.
There you go. Because seed to seed. Ew, they're gross. They're gross.
Says you.
I mean, I guess it works because they have crops in the Spring Kingdom. Anyway, all that being said, right? Let's get back to the point. She comes back from her family home or whatever and goes into this long monologue with Alice. Because she comes back and no one's there. No one is at the manor. Okay. And I do think there was a comment earlier made about how the manor just seems so like alone. Like it's just like, here we go.
Every time I picture it, I picture this big old mansion, right? This like really gaudy mansion, and then just fields and fields of grass.
Yeah.
And then like a little forest on the edges. But I just see fields and fields of really nicely mowed grass, and it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's just like springy,
They're Easter,
Easter's ever flowing, basically, which makes sense because obviously for Calanmai, it's like it's basically like a big music festival, right? Everybody's there. They're all like in the field and there's music going, drinks, whatever. And that's the vibe. So she comes back to the spring court. She goes into the manor. No one's there. And like I said, she meets Alice, and Alice is this is the part where Alice is like, you could have saved us. She's like really pointing the finger here. And Feyre's like, no one told me any of this. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, she really doesn't deserve the shakedown she gets from Alice.
And I get it. Like, Alice is like, I've got kids to feed, and she's like, well, I have 3 grown adults back at my place, Alice. So let's talk about it, Like, yeah. I mean, she does kind of go off, but also that whole scene is to kind of info dump. Now that the curse, the 7x7 curse, which, they keep saying 50 years have passed, blah, 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 blah. 7x7 is 49, everybody, just so we all know. Simple math here. But now that the curse is up, of course, Alice can tell her everything. And so then we find out, okay, there's this lady under a mountain. She's kind of evil. Her name's Amarantha. She's been terrorizing everyone. She tricked everyone into giving her their powers, but she can't use them. She can only kind of like mimic them sometimes and control them a little bit. Whatever. So Feyre, if you really want to go and like save all of the world, like not just the Fae, but like, you know, the humans too, you're going to have to go under the mountain. And all I can really give you is a pair of pants. There is no blight. There is only Amarantha. Direct quote. And so Feyre's like, yeah, why not? You know, simple as that. It is what it is. And she goes. And then we have the trials. How do we feel about the trials?
Love.
Yeah. Which one was your favorite one?
Maybe I am not the smartest, but I also didn't realize that the answer was love.
Okay, reading back that riddle for the third time now, like I to this day still don't think it makes sense.
I don't think it makes sense.
I did not get that, and I love a riddle.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it. Like I this is another point at which I was like, perhaps I am still Feyre, because I could never get that. Like literally when Feyre's like, I lost my brain and like could not think of it, you know?
I just don't think it was a very well written riddle.
I mean, also true. The riddle, I'm gonna read it really quick because I have it here. There are those who seek me a lifetime, but we never meet. And those I kiss, but who trample me beneath ungrateful feet. At times I seem to favor the clever and the fair, but I bless all those who are brave enough to dare. By large, my ministrations are soft-handed and sweet, but scorned, I become a difficult beast to defeat. For those each of my strikes lands a powerful blow, when I kill, I do it slow.
The only thing from that sentence that like even remotely I was like, okay, I guess, is that there's that quote about a lover scorned.
But scorned, I become a difficult beast to defeat. Mm-hmm. Yes. Because I'm still looking at it right now, and I'm like, for when I kill, I do it slow. What are you talking about, Amarantha? You made that crap up.
Also, the clever, like falling in love is not clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. At times, I seem to favor the clever and the fair. So I guess what she's trying to say is like, you know, I don't know what she's trying to say. Actually, I'm going to go back to what I said, which was, I don't know. The riddle was annoying.
But the rest of the tasks those are fun.
This is actually so true, Ash. It feels more like a poem. Are riddles supposed to be this long?
There are riddles that are that long. But
it's Monet's. Exactly. Well, and also the thing with the riddle is if she guesses wrong, then everybody's effed, right? So she's like, in this moment, Feyre's like, I can't say the wrong answer because if I do, everyone's dead. But what if I say the right answer and then everyone's free, you know? Mm-hmm. So obviously she makes a deal with Amarantha. She goes through these trials. Literally thinking about the trials, the only one I could really remember, and this is so sad, it was the worm. I was like, what are the other ones?
No, I'll never forget the one where she's supposed to read, and poor Lucian is there.
Lucian's like, Beckwad! Beckwad, you done it! Pull the lever,
oh God. Is the fate of this illiterate 19-year-old, which the fact, oh God, that she can't read is crazy.
God. Another way her family failed her.
Yeah.
Literally. Like how... I don't know. It didn't really make sense because her family was well off when she was younger.
And she wasn't
she wasn't that young.
No, but I think she says that her mom didn't really care about her education.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense like later on, I guess, because of like stuff that happens later on. But in this one, at least, I think it's just because her mom was more preoccupied with other things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's like, my youngest, does she need to know how to read? She's pretty. We'll just marry her off. Whatever.
How is she supposed to keep up correspondence like a proper lady?
Oh my God, same. I imagine the SpongeBob worm too.
Meanwhile, I'm like thinking of the worms from Dune this entire time. I'm like, oh, it's like the giant worms from Dune. Gotcha. I thought she was like 11 when this happened, but I could be wrong. Because she's 19 now, and it was like 8 years. 8 when her mom died. Maybe she was 11 when they lost their fortune.
I do 1st, 2nd grade book club. I think that you guys are underestimating children's ability to read.
I read Lord of the Rings at 8, and like I know I was an advanced reader, but
Hi, Catherine. What the heck?
But also,
I run a 1st, 2nd grade book club. They got vocabulary down like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, she knows her letters, and she does know some things, like sounding them out, but it's just she has no practice with it, which is something she actually says in ACOMAF. She's like, I know the alphabet, Reese.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I didn't know. Okay, you couldn't read what was up on the things. I'm just trying to make sure that you know what you're talking about, Anyway, but yeah, so kids going to a book club are likely above average readers.
At the library? Anyway, sorry.
I used to teach at a school for dyslexia, so I hear you. Okay, well, there you go. I will say that I like how her shame surrounding her reading was done because she was so more effed after her trial with Lucian.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do.
It didn't really matter before. She didn't need to read. She was just shooting stuff down. Lucian and Tamlin were not having her read anything. She didn't even know what was going on.
Well, and then I do like that comes back to play in the beginning of ACOMAF, where she wants to figure out what's going on, and she just isn't given the opportunity, and Tamlin's like, oh no, it's okay, you don't need to know.
Yeah. He's like, just pick out some flowers. Blood red, how do you feel about that,
Yeah.
But yeah, going forward, I mean, she goes through these trials because she's trying to save the love of her life. The worm is arguably my favorite one because it's like the most exciting one. She's literally running around in this disgusting cesspool pit of worm crap, and she's trying to kill this thing, and she breaks her arm. Like, she's got these like steps made out of bones. It is like honestly one of my favorite parts. Like, it's just so crazy and gruesome, and I'm just like, yeah, Feyre, you are the hunter, my girl. Make those stakes of bones and let the worm fall on it, but during this time, this all serves a purpose of she is a human in this Fae realm, and she's really out of her element. She needs help from other people, but the Fae don't even realize how weak a human is. Like, Lucian comes in and he helps her once, but we already know that Lucian doesn't understand anything about humans, right? He doesn't understand how like vulnerable she is down there. So when she hurts her arm because of the worm, she is literally on the brink of death, and has to strike a deal with Rhys, Sir Rhysand.
Yeah, there's a moment in ACOMAF where Lucian is like, why did you make a deal with him? Like, I was coming back for you. And she's like, in like 5 days, I would have been dead at that point. Like,
she was literally dying.
Yeah.
Like dead. And Rhys, he comes in and he kind of always makes me a little mad whenever he is there. Just because he annoys me sometimes, but then other times he's fun and sweet and but he does have to throw a fit whenever he wants his way or whatever. He manipulates, I guess, to get what he wants, which in the end is great. But like, he definitely was like, all right, well, let's strike a deal or die. And he's like, your choice. And I'm like, well, was it? I mean, she was literally just going to die. She made a poor choice until she made that deal. and saved her life, you know?
Hashtag poor choices.
Yeah. How does he annoy you? I was instantly in love with him just because of the way that he manipulates, I believe. And it is like that in ACOMAF, but also he recognizes that he's like that and does apologize. So I would like to make note, I accepted his apology for my sake.
Yeah, I mean, Rhys is complicated, and like from what we get in this book, I mean, I like the moment where we find out he's the only one that bets like for her with the worm. Like that's kind of the first bit of rebellion you see, but there is also the, you know, drugging her, which like I get why he did it, but I don't know.
He has to be part of the job. So yeah, I mean, like I said, he does a lot of things that are like sketch, but also like you get it. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously characters can't just be one thing, and like in the grand scheme of things, yeah, he did do it for her. But I think one of my issues with Rhys is always he has all these plots and schemes and things, and he never lets anyone know.
Seems familiar.
Yeah, what they
he's
are.
He's like the Aelin of.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. Very familiar.
He is, and that's interesting because those are her two favorite characters in her book series, right? So interesting. But you know, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's fine because everything works out. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Essentially, she goes through the trials. Okay, we get to the last one. She's got to kill these people. And this is really the part where like you realize Feyre is not a killer, right? Like she's not an assassin. She's not Aelin. Okay, on some levels, Aelin also is not a killer. Like she's just a 19-year-old girl, and Amarantha is having her kill these Fae. And she's already seen this one Fae horrifically die, right, at Tamlin's house. And she's like, I never want to see this again. He's got his wings ripped off from this crazy lady. Like, what am I doing? I'm just a human.
She also like has the guilt of what's her name, Claire, the girl who she gave
Claire better. Yes. Like she got tortured and killed horribly.
So she already has that guilt going on.
Yeah, it's like not well, right, for a young person any person to go through, but
yeah,
a young person especially. So in this last one, she has to kill Tamlin, and Feyre, like, you know, she's really down on herself a lot, but like she is smart. Okay, you are smart, you are beautiful, you are wonderful, and she realizes, she's like, Tamlin I did hear he might have had a heart of stone or something, you know. Maybe that was something I heard. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but whatever. And she makes a decision to just slam the knife in. And you know how that goes. Obviously, Amarantha does not hold up her end of the bargain. You know?
Surprise.
Yeah, I was like, surprise. This is the part where the Fae part comes in, right? She's like, you said, but you didn't say when. And Faye was like, gosh darn it. Didn't think about it.
Foiled me again.
Yeah, you got me. You got me good. And so her neck literally breaks because Amarantha kills her. And this is the part where I'm always just like, you know, like, would this have actually happened with the High Lords? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. But essentially, all this action happens in the end. Feyre ends up coming back to life because the High Lords give a piece of her, or a piece of them to her, right? And yeah, the villain is villaining. Exactly. It's happening. Amarantha dies. Feyre comes back. And all Feyre really remembers in this moment is like seeing herself be killed, like dead on the floor. And I think the first time I read that, I was like, oh, she's having an out-of-body experience. Like she literally has like died or whatever, and she's like looking at herself. But we figure out later that it's from Rhys's perspective, right?
Yeah.
And she comes back and she's high fae, and it's all well and good. She goes back to the Supreme Court, you know. She's like having her last little bit with Reese, and she's like, "Hey, thanks for everything you did under the mountain, man. Hope I never see you again." Yeah. Thumbs up, dude.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Yeah, everything we went through, it was really crap." Oh. And you're like, "Bro, what are you doing? Your like mouth is open. You're acting like a little crazy. Is that drool coming out of your mouth? Like, what's happening?" And she's like, "What?" And then he disappears, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, that was weird, but you know." Like, listening to that part on audio, I was just like, "Okay, that was so random." Like, literally, the chapter just ends.
I would have been like,
"Yeah, you weirdo."
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever. But then, of course, you know, the book essentially ends, right? She goes back to the Supreme Court, and she is going to marry Tamlin. The High Lords part, I'm always just like, what?
Well, like, it's explained what happens in ACOMAF.
Yeah.
Why don't you go into that, Catherine, since we're now on ACOMAF?
Now we can finally talk about ACOMAF.
Yeah, I feel like this book was like a prologue to ACOMAF, but anyway.
It is. I forgot who said it, but someone was like, it's Assassin's Blade, where it's all just a prologue to ACOMAF. But it's in like chapter 54 where Reese explains that he goes into each of their minds and is like, "Hey, you're gonna fucking give a piece of your power to bring this girl back."
My boo. My baby, my boo.
And essentially compels them to do it for one reason or another. But yeah. So once that's explained, it's like, okay.
It all makes sense. Reese is incredibly powerful. His
is.
Power, we didn't even know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go into a whole plot summary of ACOMAF like I just did for ACOTAR, but lots of stuff happens in ACOMAF.
Discussion. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
I think what I want to talk about is the differences, the comparisons and differences between ACOTAR and ACOMAF. That's the juice of these two, I think, because we do start off ACOMAF. We're in the Supreme Court again, like at places we don't want to be, right? And everything seems fine until, you know, she starts kind of feeling trapped. She's like,
except it doesn't seem fine.
Yeah, no, she's like having full-on panic attacks. And
she fully is like throwing up, not eating.
Yeah. Right?
Like,
and he's just
Tamlin is doing. Like, well, yeah, he's doing what he does best, which is sweep everything under the rug. He's like the like epitome of like, you know, when people say like the perfect English, like, you know, you don't say anything about your feelings and you push it all down and everything is fine. And
meanwhile, the surreal is like, bitch, you got another thing coming.
That is, yep. And that's just like Tamlin. And then you have Ianthe, who is creepy and a predator. And I hate
Amarantha
her.
Part 2, basically.
Yeah.
2.0.
And it's like, Tamlin, haven't you learned the first time, my guy? Why do you keep bringing in these?
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, and just like Lucian feels so uncomfortable, and you're like, what is going on? And you find out later, like, oh yeah, she like literally manipulates like these men and makes them feel like they can't say no to her because she's a priestess.
Right. There's a lot going on in this book.
Rough.
It's so bad. But also I kind of like, I know this is chaotic, okay? But I kind of love it because I feel like in ACOMAF, we see so much more of the Supreme Court and just kind of like how it is. Because in the first one, we're like, okay, big house on a hill, cool. But in the second one, we're like, okay, he's got territories. He's got other like towns that they're trying to rebuild. He's got like the water nymphs. He's got, You know what I mean? Like there are priestesses, which I didn't know anything about in the first one. Like obviously we know, I almost said the children of the corn. That's hilarious. We obviously know the children are blessed or whatever, but we don't really know like that much about the Supreme Court. So I love the second one because I feel like we're just learning so much more about the world. And I know everybody's like world building, but like I like the setting, okay? Because I want to know where we are.
Well, you do get to see, I liked that scene where you get to see them in their little throne room and the people are coming in, like doing their tithing stuff. And Farrah is already having a really hard time. And then this moment happens and she's like, Tamlin, you're a dick. Like, help these people down.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? And that's when she, I think, really starts to see that she doesn't know Tamlin. And like, everything that they'd been through under the mountain, like obviously she only really was present and got to see a portion of what was going on, like with Tamlin. Like obviously she could feel it and she understood. But like when you're in the midst of almost being eaten by a worm, I feel like that's your man is your last thing on your mind, you know?
Yeah, you're just trying to survive out there. Like so early things, you know?
Yeah, so I think that like that scene really solidified something for her, and then we get to see the wedding where she's like, "Save me, save me, save me."
Basically having a panic attack. So it feels like forever. The beginning of this book feels like it is so long because it actually is like 3 months from the end of ACOTAR, right? It's 3 months until the wedding, and we all know she gets in this big fluffy doo-doo dress. And Ianthe's like, this is the perfect dress for you, girl. Like, you look so good. And she's just like, Tamlin even laughed at her. He was like, yeah, you look great. You know? And she's like, please get me the out of here. Like, what am I doing? And I just think, like, I don't know. I don't even know. How did Tamlin fall in love with her? She's just a pretty young girl. Like, I don't even...
But is Tamlin in love with her? Like, I feel like
he's in love with the idea of her.
Yeah.
He loved like this human, like, I mean, with Tamlin, he wants to protect, but in a different way than like Rhys, where hi Jean, where he's like, he wants to be the center of her world and he wants everything to revolve. Like she can't have friends outside of like he's that guy where it's like if you're in a relationship, you only ever do things as a couple. You only ever, you know, hang out with that person. You never, you know, you can't have a girls' night. You got to always hang out with me. Tamlin is in love with being loved. Like he wants her to. Yeah.
Well, his bottom line is he wants control. Like he wants absolute control. And that's like not just with her, it's like with his kingdom. Like that's why the tithe thing is so important, because he's like, we can't stray from the tithe. And she's like, why do we need it? We've got so much gold and crap for what? We're trying to rebuild here. Like if we want to actually do something for the people, let's get out there, you know, and rebuild and whatever. And he just, I don't think he loves her either, but he loves that she defends him and wanted to save him, which he didn't really have before. Yeah, I mean, it is something like, he probably has not felt close to somebody. Like, let's be honest, he probably has not felt close to somebody like that since whatever, his family gets wiped out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that he thinks that he loves Farrah, but I don't think that he loves Farrah. I think that he loves the control of a relationship where it's this helpless human girl, and then I think under the mountain he realizes that she's really not that helpless, and then she gets turned into Fae, and what does he do with that? Like, do you know what I mean? Because she's not helpless. And so I think that's a huge part of Tamlin's needs, is like someone who's helpless, just like Catherine was saying, like someone he can take care of, someone that he can have full control over the situation, and someone who won't challenge him in the ways that he doesn't want to be challenged.
Yes. Yeah. And he still wants her to be that girl, and she's not.
Yeah. I have a quote. Yeah, and I feel like it's a popular quote, but it's one that like every time I hear it, it just like hits, because it's like Farah talking to Reese about her relationship with Tamlin. And it's I'm thinking I was a lonely, hopeless person, and I might have fallen in love with the first thing that showed me a hint of kindness and safety. And I'm thinking maybe he knew that, maybe not actively, but maybe he wanted to be that person for someone. And maybe that worked for who I was before.
Mm-hmm. But then she literally died.
Yeah.
And she's not that girl anymore, you know?
Yeah.
I love the contrast of her character development in ACOTAR and then ACOMAF, because she literally died and became a new person. Like, it's not even just like a metaphor of like, she died and became a new person. She like actually was dead and is now completely different physically.
And on top of that, she had a chance for once in her life, for the first time ever, like, taking away Reese, taking away what he like provides for her in this book and stuff. She had the one chance in her life to finally have the tools to process what she needed to process, how she needed to process. And I think that that's the reason I gave this book 5 stars, was because the mental health journey, and every time I read it, the way that it affects me, and like how every time I read this book, it is for her journey. Like, we can talk about Reese and Farah all day long. Like, sure, I know everybody loves that, but like, if you really read ACOMAF for what it is truly her journey of coming into herself and like healing in a way that she's never had the chance to do before, never having people to rely on her for their survival, or her for her survival when it comes to Tamlin. And somebody like, I will already say it, I think that Reese is controlling. I think that as a character, he is a controlling character. So like, I can't say that she wasn't in a place where she wasn't with somebody controlling, but it was very different, you know, like I don't know. Anyway, I think
always been on her side, at least. Like, he's always been on her side, at least. Like, Reese, like, he has never, he is controlling. This is like my controversial opinion that I was just like, y'all, some people are going to really hate this, but like, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, Reese is a control freak too, in his own ways. And that is because the same reasons as Tamlin. He has lost everyone in his family, right? He's had to literally create a whole new family from like these people that he loves from his inner circle, right? And because he's lost like his mom, his sister, his dad, you know, he feels like he has to do everything, and like he has to scheme and he has to plot and he's got to control everything. And like, that's why he is controlling, like Rhysand. So I don't know, like he's similar to Tamlin in a lot of ways, but obviously like the major difference is he's always on Feyre's side. He's always out for Feyre. Like, that's his girl, and he knows that from the beginning. So like, even when he's being a dickhead, he's doing it to get a rise out of her, to make her live again. Because at this point in the beginning of this book, it's like her mental health journey does, like, her mental health is suffering. She doesn't have a will to live, basically. She's just like there, you know, a ghost of a shell of a person.
Well, and that's the whole thing too that I can appreciate about Reese, is that like, I knew that we would agree on him being controlling, but he does, like in the beginning, right, when he's like, I can teach you how to read if you want, or I can just leave you alone in this house if you don't want anything to do with me, and you can spend this time here doing whatever the fuck you need to do. I don't even need to be here. And it's like those little moments of him giving her like pockets of freedom and like moments to figure herself out and to figure out what she wants. And it was never like forced upon her. This relationship didn't feel forced upon her. Like, she came to it on her own. And I always appreciated that he gave her the space to do what needed to be done, because to him, he knew like, well, if this is my mate and she understands that we're mates at some point, which she doesn't in the beginning, but when she comes to terms with that, she can make the choice to say yes, no, whatever. And we will have a lifetime of being together. So if I can give her these moments of like figuring herself out and realizing that she can love me, then I'll do that. And I really liked that whole dynamic. But I definitely think that like he is controlling in his own ways. but he's always controlling in a way where he puts Farrah first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even when she doesn't put herself first. And I mean, he does give her freedom up to a certain point, but then there is a moment when he's like, literally, this cannot go on. Like, you can't just sit around anymore. Like, tell me what to do to help you, or like whatever. And that's why he like picks on her to get her to like respond, right? He like does things through her to like get her to open up. And he's like, come meet my friends. Like, come see that I'm not a weirdo. Like, I've got a pretty cool family that you might like hanging out with. I don't know. Do you want to work for me? You go to this like weird like bone weaver's house. You can like go in and find this weird object for me. And like, I'll just be testing you the whole time to see, you know, what you got going on.
Yeah.
Are you feeling what I'm feeling, or what's going on?
I do. The one moment that like always sticks out to me is the moment that he takes her to his little townhouse that like he actually lives in, and it's lived in and whatever. And like that moment, for whatever reason, always gives me chills, because I'm like, this is one of those times where it's like she's going to experience a home, like a true home, and true like loving people. I don't know how to explain it. It gives me chills every time.
It's literally like a cozy vibe. Like, this is his real self. Like, this is who he is. Like, that's why ACOMAF is so like iconic in ways, because it's like you think Rhysand is a whole character. Like, you just think he's such a bad dude. And then in this book, you just kind of, the curtain is revealed, the man behind the curtain, whatever. And you figure out that like he does have like this really soft place in his heart for like the people he loves. And like, he loves being a protector of his people, and he will do anything for the people he loves. And like, that's like admirable. Like, obviously he's controlling, but it's because of the things he's lost and all the weight on his shoulders and the trauma he's been through. And like, you know, in the end of the day, he's out for Farrah. He's trying to make sure that like she's all right. And he's not even putting any pressure on her to do anything. Like we said, like, he's like, I feel the mate bond, and I don't know if you're feeling it, but like, even if you never feel it, I'm still going to be here for you, you know, and like, you're safe, you're good.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate one thing I like appreciate in all of Sarah J. Maas's books is how she handles like mental health and like trauma and PTSD, like, because everyone responds to it differently, and no one's journey is the same. And like, I feel like she highlights that in a really like good way, where it just like a real way, like it just feels so real. And like with Farrah and her like whole trauma at the beginning, and her like going through PTSD and not having that support from Tamlin, and then Rhys literally turning around and be like, is she not eating? Are you not feeding her? Why are you not taking, you're claiming that you're taking care of her, but like she has lost like all this weight. She like clearly
looks
is
terrible. Yeah.
Like,
it's that part when she sees herself from his perspective, and she's like, shit, I look like hell.
Yeah, where she like goes to put on the like night court clothes like the second time, and is like, they're falling off of her. And it just like it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's just,
how can you watch somebody die in front of you?
Because Tamlin is so wrapped up in his own bullshit. Like, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
Which he also like is dealing with trauma and stuff, but like he needs a therapist, and putting that on.
And I still think it's like literally also the fact that he doesn't know how to rule. Like, he's just not a good leader in a lot of ways. Like, he just wasn't prepared. He hasn't learned how to do it, you know? So
I mean, but neither did Rhys, really.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I don't think, I mean, that's the whole thing here, is that like therapy and stuff is not
a thing
that we know of. You know, we haven't seen it. So I think that it's like showing two sides of the coin, right, of how you can respond to trauma. There's many ways you can respond to trauma, but she's showing a way of where it also makes you the abuser, and how whatever. And then like Reese and stuff is the opposite, but we have a different perspective on him. And I don't know. I mean, I really love the way the mental health is handled in so many ways, but like, yeah, obviously in a perfect world, therapy would be great.
In a perfect world.
Therapy, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And with Reese, he's definitely not my favorite of the like Sarah J. Maas males, but he's not my least favorite, but he's not my favorite.
Yeah. He annoys me, but also I understand why he does things.
Yeah. I mean, when I first read these, like the first couple of times I reread this, because I genuinely have reread this like 10 times. And the first couple of times I reread it, I was like, Reese.
Yeah. You know, like drinking the juice, baby. Drinking the juice.
And like, I get it. I understand why he is so beloved. Because like, obviously, you go from a Tamlin to Reese.
Doo-doo.
Yeah.
Like, come on. But yeah, he's no longer, after rereading it many times and stuff, he's no longer my favorite. But he's not my least favorite, like Catherine said. And I think that also when you get further along in the series as well, my perspective kind of changed a little bit in how they interacted and like how he treats other people, I guess, other people.
Yeah. No, and I think too, like once we go through the rest of the series, it's like we just realize like we know who Reese is, we know how he's gonna act. He's always for Feyre, so just don't even mess with her. Okay? Mm-hmm. He's gonna mist your mind. No. My favorite part in this book is when she's like, "What's misting?" And he takes an orange and just like mists the heck out of it, and he's like, "Imagine that with blood." And you're like, what? I love this book because of I just think it has like a lot more to offer. Like obviously the mental health and like the characters and stuff, but also the fantasy plot. We have so many fun little trials in this book. Okay. The fun little trials being the bone carver, the weaver. We have a chance encounter with the Suriel, arguably one of the most important scenes of this book. Right. And we figured this out. Like, I'm not going to go through all of them, but like, obviously she's going through all these trials because Reese is testing her and he's trying to judge where she is. He's like, okay, can you do this? Can you do that? And yeah, he loves her, we figure out, but like, he's also trying to like make her a better person and also trying to bring her into the group to be important and like an integral part because he knows that she has all this great potential and like she can use it. She just has to learn how to do it. She has to have confidence in herself. She needs to learn how to read, first of all, like, basics. So I really
like giving her a purpose outside of just planning parties and
out of just existing. Like, and that's why he brings in his found family, right? Because he's like, you can have people who care about you. And I think one of the best parts of this book too is Feyre admits, she's like, I thought she was my friend. And even when I went back to like go see my sisters for a while, like I was beginning to have a friendship with them, but had to leave, whatever. And so now that I've met like more, like I can actually like see myself having a normal relationship, like with a woman, like just like normal, hey, how you doing? Checking in, what's going on? And I mean, as much as I hate on Reese, he does a lot for our girl.
Mm-hmm.
Does a lot for our girl, Feyre.
And I love the inner circle.
I know that's like my favorite.
Found family.
Oh, so good. Even Amryn, like
Amryn is so funny, y'all. Like
I love Amryn.
Yeah, me too.
Her being a little fire drake, basically. Like,
she's the Manon of
she's the Manon of this series. I don't think she's like quite as funny to me because Manon is like, Manon, but But
because we don't get her POV.
Yeah,
we had Amren's POV.
If we had Amren's POV, it would be ancient and just like smoky and just like, what are you even talking about? You know what I mean?
Oh, like, wait, okay, sorry, we can talk about this now. Because we were talking about like connections between Throne of Glass and whatever. So we know in this book that Amren is from another world, right? Yeah. So in Throne of Glass, we know about word keys and different portals and different gods and XYZ. Amren has to be one of those. She has to be from one of those portal worlds, different worlds, whatever. And I'm like curious, is she potentially one of
the goddesses?
Yeah. Because like she talks about how she doesn't have like where she comes from, there's not many of her.
Right.
Kind.
It's not a lot. It seems like
I have to be so careful.
Oh, right, because you're like caught up on everything.
Don't even speak at this point, you know, like
I can't. I literally can't say anything.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to me, like from what we've read. The funny part to me, I think, is that in this series in ACOTAR, it seems so much easier to like go between worlds and stuff. Like Rhys literally stores things in an alternate dimension and like pulls them out. Like when they're going to see the bone carver, he just pulls this bag out of the other dimension. And she's like, where the hell did that come from? He's like, oh, I was just, just keeping it around.
Like pocket dimension.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's like the influences in Throne of Glass are like so medieval. Like they're so behind in the times, you know, they've got to get these word keys to go through the portals. But like in ACOTAR, it's, you know, as simple as that. And that's why, you know, Rhys, when he sees, we can talk about this too, right? He sees Aelin falling and he's like, sup, neighbor? What's going on? Howdy, you know? And she's confused. She's like, I'm essentially like a medieval person. Like I've never seen this in my life. Like, you know, that's how I kind of picture it.
Well, and like winnowing is so much more of like just a thing. So it's like, oh, someone suddenly appearing. They probably just winnowed from somewhere else in the kingdom. Like,
and so I think that's all very interesting because it's like, again, sorry, you made me think when you were saying the whole thing about Throne of Glass being more medieval, ACOTAR being more like, I guess, more with the times, and then Crescent City is like urban fantasy. I think it's interesting that it's kind of going more towards that.
In a timeline, in like we started with like this prologue of, oh, we've got other worlds and we've got word keys and we've got all these different things. You don't know what's going on. There's not a lot of magic, like arguably, okay. There are creatures and things, but like the only real magic is like the Maeve, you know, like that kind of a thing. And then you come to this world where like magic is just like everybody's got it. Obviously the humans don't, but like, you know, all the Fae lords and like things like that. Everybody's got their own thing going on. And I'm assuming in Crescent City, it's like normal Joe Blow. Like there's just magic everywhere, you know? So it's like opening up more and more as we like go along through the series.
Well, and so I will say, I do know that all the books take place technically congruently, like within, like at the same time, but parallel worlds.
But that makes sense because of when in Kingdom of Ash, the timeline in which we see her fall. And if you're caught up on the ACOTAR series, like, you know that that's technically near the ending of where we're already at with the ACOTAR series.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like a really interesting choice.
Yeah.
And I also now see why the novella came out when it did.
Yep.
Yeah. So Amren is definitely not of this world. I mean, we know that. She just emanates.
Yeah.
You know,
she got trapped in
Yes. And it's so, I love how they talk about her, and I love how they talk about Feyre too. Because when they're going to see the bone carver, he's like, oh, you are like another one who's been made, right? And that whole part is really interesting because they go to this prison and it's filled with all these just different beings. Okay. Where are they from? No idea. But we know that Amryn was there, and Amryn was there for centuries. Like, she was caught in that prison before they had the written word. That's what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's almost as if that prison was a place where they kept the things that should not be there, the things that are too strong for the world of ACOTAR. And only like in specific cases do people get out, right? Like Amryn's case.
I love the prison scenes. I don't know why. I just think it's really interesting. I've always loved the bone carver and the weaver. And
yeah, because they're different.
Yeah, I think that like one of the things from this series that sticks with me are those different creatures, different species beings that we get to see in here that just feel very interesting and very important to the plot. And you can't really figure out why. I mean, I know why they're important to the plot, but I feel like they're important to a larger plot that we don't know. Well, I don't know.
Right. Well, no, because sure, we have different like monster beings, I guess, like whatever, throughout all the series. But like the bone carver has always been an interesting character to me, just because he literally looks different to every single person who sees him.
Yeah.
Right. And I was reading that scene where they first meet him, and obviously she sees Feyre sees like a little child. Rhys says that he sees Jurian. And I was still trying to like read into that, because the last line of that chapter, I don't know it verbatim, but it was essentially something like, it was interesting how the bone carver knew what you wanted to ask about. Right. And so Rhys wanted to ask about Jurian because he's trying to save the world. But then Feyre is seeing a small young child.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you're like, wait, what? Who was she asking about? Like, I think about that line all the time because I'm just like, what do you mean? And I still don't think to this day it's been explained to me, because it kind of like, we kind of like skirt over it. But
I think it is explained later, but I won't.
Like, I know who he is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense for her to want to ask about that when like she doesn't even know anything else that's going on with them. You know what I mean? So yeah, but anyway, bone carver's always been, and the fact that Rhys brings the bone from the worm, icon.
He kept that.
Yeah, he kept it. He was like, I might need this bone one day. I will say Rhys is the ultimate schemer. Like Aelin, yes, but we never really saw Aelin's schemes. Like, they just kind of showed up. I feel like Rhys, like, these things happen and like he brings these things in, and it makes much more sense in this series for me, at least.
I did like those moments a lot. He's a very smart character.
He is.
And he's the, what's the Taylor Swift, the what if I told you none of this was accidental?
Was accidental. That's right. He is that version of Taylor, you know?
Yeah.
Rhys's version, if you will. So that that kind of gets him in trouble. We figure that out in the plot because Feyre tells him, she's like, do not leave me out of plans. You want to know why? Because Tamlin left me out of plans, and you're acting like Tamlin right now. So y'all remember that scene. There's a big blow up, and Rhys doesn't talk to her for days after that. And she's trying to like send him those cute little notes. They have like the cute little note back and forth. Such a cute, I love it. Okay, y'all are cute. You're being too cute. Get out of here. And she's like, where's my guy? Like, why is he not responding? What's going on? And it's because he literally realizes, he's like, shoot, if she thinks that I'm Tamlin and that's my mate, like, I got to do some introspective, like, viewing of myself, because I cannot be that guy. Like, I love her too much to control her. And so I need to fix myself. And like, that's what I mean when I say Rhys is annoying, but he at least has like the agency to be like, okay, let me go and do some stuff to work on me so that I can be a better version of the man I need to be for you, you know?
Yeah.
So
I feel like that is the biggest difference between him and Tamlin.
100%.
Tamlin would have Tamlin literally did destroy a room and, throw a whole fit and all this if she said something like that to him, versus Rhys, who is
she can throw a shoe out.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
He's not afraid of the call out. He's not afraid of the call out. And I think you see that too with his inner circle, right? Because he's so casual with them. Like, that's his family.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, if they say something, he's going to consider it. Like, at the end, he'll do what he wants to do, but he will listen at least and, like, be like, okay, perhaps I can't go with you guys over to King Hybern's house because he will know, that I'll be there, or like whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that gets him in trouble a lot. She finally has a last straw. And it leads to that beautiful moment of the starfall scene. Because that's when they haven't talked for a while. And she's like, hey, bud, where you been?
I do love that scene. When she smiles.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And this is the start of something new. The stars are falling. And like, when I read that scene, I always feel like it's a paint splatter, basically, just like plopping on her face. Because they're having a romantic moment. This is when the story shifts, okay? She's seeing Rhys not only as this guy who's super annoying, but also this guy she kind of likes. She's like, wait, I might want to have like a little something with you, a little liaison, if you will. Okay? And you think something's going to happen. Then, of course, the starfall hits her in the face, and he's laughing his ass off. He's like, you look so dumb, but like, you're kind of still cute. I kind of still love you. Like, what's going on? And it's that pivotal moment where that happens. Then they have like the little end scene where they're, she's like, they're like getting it on or whatever. And he's like, what do you want? He wants her so badly to admit that she likes him in some capacity. He's like, please tell me you
the only one bed scene, honestly, I like that even more than chapter 55. Everyone always talks about chapter 55. I'm like,
the one bed.
Thank you. Because
the wings.
Okay, so I read this series right when ACOTAR just released. That's when I started it. And so I continuously saw on Bookstagram all the time that chapter 55. So I was reading it and I wasn't really paying attention to the chapters. And the one bed scene comes along and I'm like eating it up. I was like, all right, I get it. I get the chapter 55, not realizing that I'm not on chapter 55.
Nah.
Like, and then I like turn, you end the chapter and you look at the chat, whatever it is. And I was like, wait, this isn't even the iconic scene apparently, because that one lives rent free in my head.
Oh,
right?
Man, right here.
Well, because I mean, I feel like that's like the first time they kind of get jiggy with it, right? They're something's going on. Okay, something's going on. And Rhys is, God bless him. He just really wants it to work out. He's like, please, are you well now? Can you admit to me that you like me, please? And then of course she's like, no, I just kind of want like a casual thing. And he's like, casual. I can't do that.
He's like, dude, in the rain.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him. Oh my God. Anyway.
Because even she's like, oh no, I want something more, but I can't. And
yeah,
because she also like still has so much guilt about Tamlin and is like, man, I did all that stuff for Tamlin, and like all these people expect me to be with Tamlin, and then
you just got to get over it, She just get over it.
What is I can't even remember. What's the timeline?
You mean like where are we in the story?
No, like from when.
I think it's like 1 to 2 months after when she's supposed to get married.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. It's like not very long, because I think there is a moment where she's like, I literally was supposed to get married. Like, I want to say it was like 2 months.
I don't know. I cannot.
Can you imagine crashing somebody's wedding? Because you're just like.
Or no, I guess it would be. So there's like the wedding, and then between the wedding and when she like leaves Spring Court, there's 2 months, because she goes. Like Reese takes her
back and forth,
back and forth.
Yeah, because they make that deal with he makes that deal with Tamlin, and then he goes to the wedding, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, the deal. Yeah. You remember that? Gotta take her." And she's like,
"Yeah." There's like between Under the Mountain and the wedding, there's 3 months, and then between the wedding and when she leaves, there's 2 months. And then I want to say it's another 2 months after that is when we get to like the inn, you know.
It's the 3 month thing, like before the wedding, I think that time is so interesting. I kind of touched on it earlier, but it's so interesting that Reese does not come for her. And we know, obviously, after reading the book, we know it's because he was trying to give her space. And he was like, listen, if you want to marry him, that's all you. I mean, granted, I've been dreaming about you, but like, you don't know that. So I can't impress myself upon you. You're in love with this dude. But then as soon as she has those thoughts of like, save me, help me, I need to get out of here, that's when Reese sees his opportunity, and he kind of sees the spark of, I perhaps may have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I mayhaps may have a chance, right?
Yeah, and that's where we get into the like Hades Persephone.
Yes, like he even says that I'm not supposed to win. Like I'm the evil guy who takes the beautiful woman into his court underneath the ground, and like in reality, I'm not supposed to be that way. And Feyre's like, yeah, well, maybe that's not our story, buddy.
Another great line that I love that's iconic is when I think she's talking to Amren. Feyre's talking to Amren, and she's like, Reese, I don't have the exact quote with me, but Reese like thinks of himself as like the bad guy, but I forgot to tell him that the bad guy isn't the one the bad guy's the one who locks up the princess in the tower. And he's the one who set me free, or whatever it is. I'm paraphrasing, but
I always think about
that part. It's interesting because I feel like him and Feyre have similar views of themselves sometimes. Like they're very hard on themselves for like no reason. Like you guys are good people, okay? Come on. Mm-hmm. Feyre's literally given the jewels off of her neck to like a poor person, you know, like whatever. And so it's like in that way, she's also thinking like I'm not good enough for Reese. That's the whole reason why she doesn't want anything serious with him right in that moment, because she's like, I don't even think I'm good enough. Like I was going through the whole motions of me with Tamlin, and like I wasn't good enough for him. I didn't think that, you know. It's just like very self-deprecating. Like I'm like, you literally saved Prynthian, girly. Okay, I think you deserve something, like some kind of happiness. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. They're soulmates, some could say.
Mm-hmm.
Mates,
some could say.
Some could say.
Going from that point, what?
I do love a soulmate.
Honestly, I do love a fated mate type bond.
I do.
It's just something about it. Like I feel like I shouldn't, because it's like, is it even real? But like, I don't know, something about like the destiny of it all.
I think that's also why I like this one so much, is because like despite my feelings on Reese, I do think the buildup was done so well.
It was done so well.
It was just done so well.
Because this book is a slow burn. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to hear it not being one, okay? It might be spicy, but, like, you get to 55 chapters before you really get into the goo-goo, you know?
Mm-hmm. The what now?
The goo-goo. Mm-hmm.
That made me want to die.
I don't like that.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love it because obviously, like, leading up to that point, I mean, Feyre and him are trying to figure out their feelings. Like, there's even the point where, like, he's getting, they get attacked, like, twice. Once they get attacked by Lucien and his band, and this is when Lucien's character sucks. Like, this is the part where I was like, Lucien, gosh darn it. You just go to
we were rooting for you. We were rooting for
you. I was rooting for you. You know, like, but Lucien, to a lot of, you know, I guess, like, to his credit, he doesn't understand who the Night Court is. Like, he doesn't understand who Rhysand is. So, like, in his brain, he is trying to help his friend Feyre, and, like, he knows Tamlin sucks, and he says that. He's like, look, I know he sucks. Like, just, he needs help. I know that, but, like, I'm trying to save you from this situation that, like, I'm perceiving, right? So, like, in his defense, he thought he was doing the right thing. Like, I get it. I really don't think he's malicious or, like, wants any harm done to Feyre. It's just the fact
he's just a little bit of an idiot.
Like, yeah, the way in which he goes about it.
He's a little stupid.
Yeah.
And
not well.
He struggles out of it. Yeah. He struggles with critical thinking.
Bless him. Maybe, but, like, I get it, you know? Like, you think Feyre's under mind control. You know? Aren't we all a little bit when we're in love? So, I think my favorite part of this book is when she's flying with Rhys, and it's the second time. So after the Lucien thing, and, like, Lucien goes back to report to Tamlin, right? Obviously, he's like, your girl is with Rhys, and we got to save her. So after that, they fly again. Rhys is about to basically say, I love you, we're mates. Like, I can't hold it in any longer. Please love me back, like, whatever. And he's so distracted that he literally doesn't understand that he's being shot at by these poisonous arrows from the men of Highburn, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of when stuff actually hits the fan. She has to go save him from the cave. And that's when Feyre really, I mean, she should have known in this. I say she should have known, but, like, she acts feral in that moment. She's winnowing. She's, like, stabbing people. She's like, you thought you could come and get my boy? And I'm like, admit your feelings, girl. You are in love. But, you know, she does all this crazy stuff. She captures the Suriel. And she's like, help me out, friend. Like, give me the tea. And the Suriel's like, oh, yeah, if you want to save him, just give him your blood because he's your mate, and that'll make him. And she's like, what did you say? And the Suriel's like, the blood.
This is my favorite because she's literally like, okay, cool. Wait, hold up, what?
Go back. And the Suriel is literally like, oh yeah, it's the blood. Yeah, just give him the blood. Like, it's all. And she's like, no, back one more again, sir. Excuse me. And he's like, oh, you didn't know. He's your mate, you dumb idiot.
Oh, right. I feel like the Suriel was like, oh, you didn't know?
Yeah, he was like,
I actually knew that you didn't know, and I wanted to let you know that I know that something you don't know is that he's your mate. Anyway.
And it seems like something you guys should talk about. I don't know, though. Okay, let me go now. Let me have my chicken bone. And so that's obviously, I love this moment because this is exactly how, like, a normal person would react, right? It's like, you've held this truth from me, and within reason. Like, Rhysand was like, you're in no way, shape, or form ready to know that we are going to be together forever. So sorry about that, but you're stuck with me, you know? So, like, granted, you know, that's great. But, like, I think in this moment, obviously she's realizing, she's like, oh, I do have feelings for him. And it all makes sense because it's this fated May situation. He didn't tell me, like, I feel like I would overreact like this too. Like, not even overreact, sorry. I would react like this as well. I would just be like, take me somewhere far away. I've got to figure out my life. I don't want to talk to him. You know, it's like that whole scene I love because it's like she's standing up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I also love that, like, Moore was just like, yeah, girl, I mean, he's basically my brother and I love him so much, but, like, I also love you, so let's go.
Yeah. He's like, Moore is a girl's girl.
Yeah.
Moore's like,
Moore, yeah, that's her. And you know that too, like in the end when she's like, I'm sorry, you let my high lady go.
Yeah.
You know, she's like really ready to like rip him to shreds.
That's the other thing about Sarah J. Maas that like gets me is I think we talked about it so much with Throne of Glass, but like the relationships that the women have, unmatched, unparalleled. Like I think that Cassian and Azriel are two of my like top favorite characters of all time. Just generally love them, whatever. But something about the relationships between the women, like Lysandra and Aelin, all of that, like even just when in Throne of Glass, like you remember I was just getting like every time they would be like my queen, whatever. It's the same thing here where I'm like, yes, they love her. This is their girl. They will ride or die for this girl. It just makes me so happy. There's just something, there's something unmatched about women loving women.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Women.
Just, like
I couldn't get it out. I was just like, women.
Yeah.
It's so good. No, I love more. I will say my hot take is Azriel is one of my least favorites of the.
I mean, I can see why. I don't agree, but I can see why.
Yeah.
I felt fine with him until like the most recent book and he had that POV chapter and I was like, ew.
I think my problem with Azriel, and like I think it is painted by things that happen in later books, but even just reading this one, I'm just like, leave more alone.
Oh yeah, I mean that is the one thing that I'm. Well, I guess we can't talk about it because I think it happened.
Yeah, we can't talk about it yet, but we'll get into it next for the next book. But I am just like, dude, I just need you to chill.
Yeah, but also he was like in a hole for like 11 years. Like he's socially not there. Okay.
Sure. Totally.
I feel bad. But he also does have like the shadows telling him the truth about things. So I'm like,
I think maybe now that you guys are saying this, maybe I like Azriel because I like the interactions that Cassian and Azriel and Rhys have, and maybe I don't actually.
I do love their like broship. Like the three of them have such a good relationship. Sarah's saying my problem with Azriel is we don't know enough about Azriel to know whether we like him or not, and like totally agree. But
it's true because every time he has a moment to talk, he gives that moment to Cassian to explain a story, or like his story is not fully explained because it's not actually him that's saying it, like about his past or whatever. It's like someone telling Feyre about his past or whatever. So, I mean, I think we're going to get more of him, obviously, in the next book, the new book that will come out. But I think Sarah's nailing it on the head here. Like, we just don't know enough about him.
That's a very good point. Because once you say it like that, I'm like, oh, yeah. Maybe it's just like the interactions between characters. That's my problem.
Yeah. No, their family is amazing.
Because I'll love interactions between characters, but individually, do I know them?
Yeah, you're like,
well, that's like I was even with the Throne of Glass, we see a lot of them together, but in this one, we see the inner circle so much more and their relationship so much more clearly.
And I mean, I think arguably you could even say, because one of my things that I loved about Nesrin and Throne of Glass was the way that she was so like, I'm a girl's girl, but we don't really know Nesrin. Like,
no,
we
don't know much about her. But we do know she's for Aelin, like at all costs. She is like the more, right, in this situation.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are making good points.
Look at us having a discussion. It's like we're doing a book club or something.
Yeah. That's why it'll be interesting to see. Because once we read that chapter again from Silver Flames from Azriel, it'll be interesting.
I'm nodding like I have.
I know.
Yeah.
I want to read it again and be like, okay, how do I feel about this? Let's see. So anyway,
I need
I need
to find all the like extra chapters of everything.
Yeah, the little chapters and stuff.
The whole thing where she releases all these bonus chapters, I'm like, literally just like, I'll buy a novella from you. I will.
Yeah, please put it all together like Assassin's Blade.
I was gonna tell you guys, it doesn't matter now because people have put them on the internet. But long story short, Target oversold their special edition.
Oh, you did tell us that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? Did you return it or?
No, I kept it because I want to read the book, but there's nothing I can do. They don't have any more with bonus chat. Well, they might now. They may have reprinted them, but when I got it, they didn't have any more. So I was just like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's online, but it's
well, if you want the indie edition, we still have so many of the indie edition. Just let me know.
Okay, well, we make it okay.
Any Hoosier.
Yeah.
I think pretty much after chapter 55, like stuff just really starts hitting like so quickly. Like just the plot just like zooms away. Like we get into, obviously the whole point of this book is the magic system is a cauldron. They're trying to bring I know.
It is. Yeah. No, I agree.
It's witch vibes because not only is it the cauldron, it's also the book of breathings, which is, let's call it what it is. It's a book of shadows. Okay. It's got spells in different languages and it's giving witch energy, double, boil and trouble, whatever.
I love us. Oh no, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just gonna say I love a sentient cauldron, It's just so great.
Please, Catherine. I can't. I've been trying to avoid the cauldron this whole time.
No, we're getting into it.
Probably my least favorite thing in this.
It's just not strong.
Cauldron, boil me.
Yeah. Like, what the hell are you guys? And then they also randomly will say, by the mother. And I'm like,
yeah.
Is the cauldron the mother?
I think so. Maybe.
It's never explained. I think they say that phrase like once or twice. Where's the world building for that? Who is she? Who is the mother? Are we
considering like the bone carver and
the weaver?
The weaver, like witches? Or like wizard witch thing, because that's how I always see them, right?
Yeah, because they use their powers essentially. The weaver is giving Hansel and Gretel. Okay.
Oh, for
the witch in the woods, like her having the whole like chimney made of people's
hair,
bodily fluids. Yeah,
honestly,
I was like, yeah.
I was living for the imagery. I was like,
it's
wow,
a vibe.
It is like making me uncomfortable, and I love that. I love that. If y'all ever read,
so creepy.
Did y'all ever read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
No, because I know of it, but I would always not be a part of that part of story time at my school library because I was wuss.
There is a scene or a story in there where there's a character stretching out human skin to dry it out in the sun, and that haunted me my whole childhood. I still know his name. His name is Harold. Okay. Anyway, that's what that was giving. And I was like, wow, this is like the adult Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yeah. She's just a little old lady trying to live her life in her little cottage. And then you realize the necklace she's wearing is teeth. And
wait, did y'all ever play Left 4 Dead?
No.
Mm-mm. No, there's this thing called the witches in it, and they cry to like lure people in, and then they just
eat you.
Yeah.
Delightful.
I like her, you know.
You're a horror girly, I know.
And me. Also, it's like an episode of Hoarders. Like when Feyre walks in, she's like, "Whoa!" Like there's like everything in this house, and all she's hearing, like, I'm just imagining if it was a scary movie, the main character's walking in, and it's like the song is playing, like da 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 da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And she's like looking over. It's this crazy lady in the corner doing her little like weird like weaving stuff. And you're like, oh, that's nice. She's got a nice hobby. You know, she's clearly blind or whatever. Like, at least she's busy. And then she like turns and looks at you and she's just like crazy. Like she just has like hair everywhere, cuckoo bananas. Gotta love her.
Yep.
Gotta love her.
He had that right.
Yeah, 100%. But you know,
we didn't even talk about the human queens yet.
I know. I was trying to get back
Bitches.
I was trying to get back to this moment where we're like, girls are for girls. Because obviously we know. So back to the cauldron. I know we skipped it, but we're going back. So they have to gather the cauldron. They've got to get the Book of Breathings. They realize that the humans have half of the book, right? And so they've got to get it. They've already stolen the other half from the Lord of Summer, the Summer Court. And Tarkin, you know, baby boo. We love all of them. And it's kind of sad. Honestly, it's kind of sad because I feel like Feyre was developing a relationship with the Lord of Summer, and he's the new guy. You know, his father was killed under the mountain, and he is new to the court, and he wants friends. And
I love Tarkin.
I feel bad that she used him and abused him like that. I'm not gonna lie. I
do too. Because he really was just trying to
have a friend.
He was trying to make some friends.
Yeah, and he was nice.
Ready for him and Rhys to become pals, and like finally Rhys has like another High Lord on his side because no one else likes him.
Yep. And that's the thing. It's like, and he's smart too. I think the reason why I love him is he's so smart. He's like, so you're telling me that you're actually a bad dude and you didn't do all that cool stuff under the mountain to like save us all? That's what you're telling me? And he's like, yeah, I'm totally evil.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, dude, whatever. Like, if you want to sell that lie to anybody, that's fine. But like, I know the truth, you know? And so I think that's why that part's so tragic, because obviously she steals the book for, you know, for the good of the world. But he does send like the blood diamond to them and is like, I'm coming for you. Like, you're on my ship.
It's like pretty iconic, honestly.
Honestly, like, I think I'm like, I F with them. Because they are like in between, obviously, the Spring Court and the Night Court. So that's why he has that whole conversation with Rhys, and he's like, so like, what do I need to know about Feyre? Like, is this like your girlfriend, or like, who is she?
Yeah. Like, I felt like that was pretty respectful though, because he was just like, he was like, listen, I could use a queen. I don't know.
He's like, she's kind of giving me the googly eyes, and meanwhile Rhys is like, I told her to do that, so back up, buddy. You know, yeah. In the corner, he's like,
and that's like the first time we see like Feyre being jealous too.
Iconic. I love this.
Flirting with what's her name?
Cressida, I think.
Yeah, Cressida?
Or yeah, something like that. His sister, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because they reconvene and she's like, you were flirting with that girl, and he was like, well, you were flirting with him, and she's like, you told me to do that, and he's like, yeah, well, I didn't like it, and she's like, okay, like, what do you want me to do? And yeah, obviously that happens before like all the stuff that we were just talking about. But the point is, they got to get this book from the female queens, okay? And it's already sus because one of the queens doesn't show up, right? And they're given just like hater energy. They show up, and Feyre has this whole thing planned, and Rhys wrote this love letter to basically say, you know, like, come help out my wife, essentially my wife.
And Nesta and Elaine are like being the perfect hosts.
They really are. Elaine is in her element. She's like, all right, this is the Super Bowl of hostess jobs. I'm gonna hostess the hell out of these people.
I do love that.
I just grew them in the garden, you know. Like, let's go.
I do love that Sarah was like, let me give Elaine 2 hosting opportunities.
Yes,
not just one. 2.
Okay. And I love it. I love it up until the part where like the queens are just so excuse me. They're so rude. And it's at that point at which my soul left my body and I said, Nesta really is that bitch again. Because she has had enough. She said, all right, it's one thing for me to disrespect my sister because that's my sister and I can treat her however I want. But don't you dare say anything against Feyre. She ascends. She's like, ah! And that's when Cassian is like, hey, buddy, we're trying to make friends here, you know? So maybe don't act like a cuckoo bananas, whatever. And Nesta's like, I'll kill you, you know? Like,
oh my God. When Cassian like makes
all the interactions, I'm just like, Sister Mary Clarence.
Y'all make me want to just go right into Silver Flame.
Not yet.
I'm telling you. Woo! Anyway,
It's so good.
It's in that moment that I think if in the first book I didn't realize it in the first read through, like how much I did, like I noticed Nesta's behavior, but in this second one, she is like for her family in her own way. Like she is for people in her own way. Because she says, she's like, you can't, they're talking about the continent and kind of like how the mortals. Yeah, anyway, she's talking about how they're not protected on their little sliver of, you know, Prythian or whatever. And the queens are like, we can't have resources to help you. And that's when Nesta's like, there are children on this like continent. Like you have to help us. It's not an if, like you will help us. You know what I mean? And it's like that little part, it's just this tiny little part, but I'm like, oh my God, I got goosebumps. I love my queen. Nesta boo, tell me more. What's going on? You know?
Well,
and I think like,
yeah, go on.
No, I was just gonna say I think that part is also important for like her and Feyre because Feyre realizes like, you know, it's not just my sisters going through the motions. Like they are trying to help me and like they are like good people. Like, yeah, I had to provide for them for years and years and years and years, and that sucked. But like I'm not necessarily alone, you know?
And I think that like even the way that sometimes I think about it is like, you know, when you have kind of maybe not the best relationship with your siblings when you're younger, but then you guys grow up and you realize that you align on a lot of things and like can heal that childhood relationship. I felt like that's where Feyre and Nesta were going, and that's why the end of this book is so frustrating.
Oh. Wait, why is it frustrating for you? Go. Let's just go.
Because Tamlin.
Yeah.
And he messes up once again what that healing moment could have been between those sisters.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. So, you know, the Nesta part, I love it, whatever. Moving forward, we're fast forwarding through, right? So they essentially get the other book piece because of the queen who leaves it for them. But at the cost of exposing the city of Velaris, which is arguably so silly to me, but I get it. He did it because he thought it was the only thing he had to expose. But like in the grand scheme of things, this place has never been revealed in like thousands and thousands of years. And your other option is to just expose like these 2 people that you helped, Miriam and Drekon or whatever. And instead of like giving up these 2 people, he gives up a whole city. But whatever, doesn't have to make sense. That's just what happens in the book. So going forward, we realize like they get the other half of the book, but then Velaris gets infiltrated, and then they've got to go to Highburn to essentially read the spell from the book and save the world. Summary of that, right? And meanwhile, this whole time, Amren has been in her room for like 50% of the book trying to decipher what this like old English or like whatever is even saying. And the kicker is they have to go to Hybern without Rhys. Okay? They have to go without Rhys. So they go, and it's really easy to get in this place. Like you can just winnow right in, right? So like you winnow in and just like it's a breeze. The cauldron's right there. It's honestly bubbling up something. They got something going on already. So take a bubble bath, whatever you want to do. But while you're there, just say the words, right? And Feyre has a moment where it's getting pretty Lord of the Rings in here. Like she's getting real Gollum with the book. Okay. The book is like, don't you want to like not throw me in and like not do this? And it like as the cauldron is like its own sentient being, I guess. Like the book is very like hocus pocus. Like it is telling her what to do. I'm telling you, she's pulling from everything. Okay. But it's telling her what to do. And she's falling for it. Our Feyre, our girl, she's falling for it. And it sucks because she puts the two pieces of the freaking thing together and it does a big blow up thing. And that's when everything kind of hits the fan, right? It's like people start coming out of the shadows. It's almost Disney villain-esque, right?
Yeah.
Voice come out of the shadows, and it's almost like, you fell for my trap. Like,
like, the moment it's so easy, something's gonna happen.
Yeah, something bad is gonna happen, and from the depths of hell, wherever he comes from, the King of Hybern's like, you fell for it. Oh, and that's when they have a shootout. Azriel gets hit right away. He's dying.
Oh my God, Cassian's wings.
Yeah, like it's just like it's a firefight, right? They're struggling for their lives out here, and he's like, I wanted to trap Rhysand. Like whatever. Rhysand shows up. He's like, I couldn't stay away. I mean, you're the love of my life. What's a gal to do? So all this starts happening, and the biggest, craziest part is that they don't have a lot of options. They don't know what to do, right? And Tamlin comes out of he's the second Disney villain to come out of the freaking dust. He's like, and the king's like, nice doing business with you, sonny boy. We got what we wanted. And then that's when you're like, Tamlin, you.
He's like, she's under mind control. He's controlling her to love.
Yeah, he's like, he's basically doing this crazy.
So stupid.
He's so dumb. You are really dumb for real, my guy.
You're so delusional,
right? And not only that, like, not only does he do this like really crazy thing, but he also gives up the fact that like the two people that they can experiment on in the cauldron are her sisters. That is unforgivable. I mean,
well, no, wasn't it not Tamlin that did that? It was Ianthe.
Oh, well, whatever. She's part of his court.
I know.
Part of his court.
It was still like,
because she wants to have control. She's like, forget the high lords. It's about to be the high priestesses up in here. Yeah. Right. So everybody's out for power, whatever. And that's when I guess you are right, because Tamlin's like, wait, this wasn't part of the bargain. Like, yeah, what's a gal to do, And of course, they experiment on Elaine first. Elaine is like yelling, screaming, crying, throwing up, being Elaine. Sorry. She goes through the motions.
Well, not really.
I mean, yeah. What's a gal to do? She goes through the motions and whatever. Then they get to Nesta. This is my champion. Would you like to say hey, bud? Monique just walked in.
My
Watch show.
I know.
Oh, she came in and she was like mimicking me as I was talking. And I was like, this is distracting, but No one's gonna know she's there. So.
I knew I should do it because she was
literally like,
in the face if I didn't say.
I'm like, what are you doing? But yeah, then we get to Nesta, and it's the iconic part where Nesta goes into the cauldron. And
I've read these books.
You have.
Look at that.
You want to jump on? You can come right for the end. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to be professional here. Excuse me. And so it's the most iconic part for me, of course, because Nesta is like fighting tooth and nail to get out of these guys' grips, and like she can't do it. She's a human at this point, right? But then she points at the king, and she goes under, and then she comes out. Well, go ahead.
And well, I was like, I love the part where like she comes out and Feyre's like, oh, she like brought something else with her.
Like, it was like, oh, I know my sister, and she was already a firecracker.
She changed something about that cauldron, and the cauldron changed something about her.
The older that I've gotten in life, the more I realize I love an angry woman.
I love an angry woman.
I feel like Nesta is such an epitome of like female rage.
Yes,
like, that's who she is.
So angry from the point of ACOTAR, when like she's so angry at the situation, like losing everything. She's the oldest, girl, the daughter, whatever. To like this moment where she's being turned into the thing that arguably she hates most in this world. Like, I mean, she hates those queens for not helping out the people, but she really hates Faye. She does not like Faye.
Yeah.
It's all
the whole thing. Maybe like, well, y'all would know because you've read Silver Flame, but like maybe the whole thing is that like she's so angry at everyone, but like maybe mostly herself for feeling like she's useless, like that she couldn't take care of everyone.
Right. And I feel like, these first 4 books, including the novella, that's really just the prologue to Nesta's story.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to refer to them as going forward. But yeah, I love that moment because she doesn't have to say anything. Like she literally just points at this man, and he's like, huh, this girl, she thinks she's pointing at me, and Nesta, something's gonna go down with her, right? She comes from the cauldron, and it's described as like she's just like this otherworldly being, like almost Amryn-esque in the way that she comes out of there, and she's now a made being.
I do actually see them as one and the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Fiery rage. And I think the biggest difference is that Amryn has just accepted. She's like, yeah, this is where I am at life, It's not a bad life.
But I mean,
but Nesta's down to F some stuff up.
I mean, so's Amryn when the mood strikes.
The time.
Well, yeah, when they're attacking Valaris, and Amryn is just
there's a reason why she's number 2.
You're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why she's number 2. And that's a fun thing to bring up, because Feyre has this really twisted way of thinking. We already know she's been under the influence of Tamlin. She's never really had any freedom in her whole life. She's always had to save somebody or do something for somebody, whatever. So when he explains that 2 women are above, the 2 Illyrian warriors in his ranking of officers or whatever, she's dumbfounded. She's like, how can women do anything? And then she's like, wait.
Wow, she was the one taking care of her family.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And she kind of has to be like, wait a minute, what? And that's when Rhys is like, if the world has gone to crap and they've gotten through, Azriel, Cassian, and more, and Amryn's the only one left, I ask her to kill me first and then let her do her thing. That, I love that little line, because he's really like, I know that Amryn is more powerful than me, but it's just in this space, in this time, I happen to be the most powerful High Lord. But any other time, Amryn is gonna be the one to just unalive everybody. But yeah, anyway, the point is the end of this book, after she comes out of the cauldron, we obviously have a moment where Feyre doesn't know what to do, because her sisters have just been put through this cauldron, which is great, in the grand scheme of things. Now they'll be alive for as long as she'll be alive. It all works out for Sarah J. Maas. But also she is seeing Azriel. Azriel is dying. Cassian's been like basically blown up to shreds. And a thing to note, of course, is that Cassian is moving towards this cauldron as Nesta is going through it, right? He's trying, even in his pain and like in almost his death, right? He's still trying to save people and like be that warrior. And Feyre has to do some quick thinking, you know? She's got to think on her feet. It's kind of honestly like the end of the last book where she was like, oh, wait, he's got a stone heart, right? So where's the loophole?
Mm-hmm.
So for her, she's like, how can I fix this? How can I do this? These are, everyone that I love is in this room, right? Besides my dad, which he's been exit from this whole entire book. So then she does like this crazy little light trick, and suddenly she's like, what's going on? Oh my God, are we in the cauldron? Tamlin, I missed you, babe. Like, what the hell?
So
you know?
It like her whole like
demeanor.
Yeah, well, her like being like, I don't know if you can hear me, Reese, but please play along. And like him falling into like the like,
he's
okay,
like puts his hands in his pocket.
The High Lord, yeah, I'm playing Night Court,
right?
Not Court of Dreams, so well. But yeah,
they do. I remember the first time I read that. I'm sure everybody is similar to this, but like you read that and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And then
when he breaks the mating bond,
right?
He breaks the bond, and it's like,
yeah.
Wait, what? Because at first it was like, okay, they're gonna bamboozle them somehow, and then they're gonna get out of this, and then he breaks the bond, and you're just like,
yeah.
What?
and yeah, you're just kind of like, OF, like, what does that mean for the rest of the book? Like, what does that mean for the rest of the series? What the heck's happening? And Reese is like deadly, like still in that moment, right? He's just like, oh, we're doing this? So then he's like, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? But like Feyre being like the ultimate, girly, she's like, I will take this. I'm a method actor.
I feel like there's so much that's like them being like, Feyre, no. And Feyre's like, Feyre, yes.
Yeah, Feyre's like, Feyre's going to do what Feyre's going to do, baby.
Yeah.
And she is.
My passion.
Right? And she is that person from ACOTAR. Like, she is the one who will take it upon herself to do the most. She will do the most. She will break her neck for these people. You know what I'm saying? So, like, she'll do the most to make sure that her people are okay. And, in the confusion, in whatever, she's like telling Moore, grab my sisters and get them out of here. You know what I mean? If you don't grab them, you're in dead trouble, whatever. And she ends up going back to the spring court with Tampon. So
I love that.
It's unwell. It's unwell. And I love how this book ends. It's so good because we know at this point that Lucien has also developed a mate bond for her other sister, right? Elaine. And
you get a mate bond. You get a mate bond.
Yeah, everybody gets a mate bond, and it's great.
I love that in ACOTAR, it's like the mating bond is like this rare and beautiful thing, and like not everyone finds their,
That's like how they get pregnant, very rare.
Except for this person and this person and this person. Yeah. Oh, just so happens that all the main characters get a mating bond.
Like Sarah was hoping that because the world building was so flimsy to begin with in this series that like we would forget.
Yeah. For sure.
No, it's shaky at best, Yeah. But this is the part where like Lucien is finally like back in my good graces. Like this part where he's like, he realizes Elaine is like his mate, right? And I know he doesn't even do much. Like he literally is just there and the mating bond snaps into place. I mean, for real, but like I kind of love him because I feel like he has always seen Feyre. It's just he hasn't had the strength or the courage to stand up for her. And that is horrible. But at least he sees her for who she is. You know what I mean? Like, at least he sees her truth and, like, he knows. So, like, at that very ending scene, she's like, oh, Tamlin, sweetie, I'm so glad to be back. I miss this place so much. Ah, flowers. I miss that scent. I love the sunshine, you know, da 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 da. And she like turns around and Lucian's like, you fake as hell, girl. You are fake. And she goes, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. You can't do anything because if you rat me out, you'll never see your mate again. And this is ultimate character development because she has now gone from being like the weakest, you know, physically to being like this political kind of like double agent, essentially. That's her position at the end of this book. It's my favorite part. And this is also the setup for why I love ACOWAR. I love a double agent.
I'm excited to reread ACOWAR.
I'm hoping I like it as much as I have liked it in the past, but yeah, we'll see. And that's how ACOMAF ends. Who's your favorite character?
In this series?
Let's do, who's your favorite character that's not part of the inner circle or Feyre? Like Feyre's people. Like, you know what I mean?
You're just trying to get us to say Nesta?
No.
Well, I mean, mine we haven't met yet.
What?
Mine we haven't met yet.
Oh, from this series?
Yeah, from this series.
What the hell?
Yeah. We meet them in ACOS.
Okay. Talk about this later. Talk about this later. Mine is the Suriel. That's my baby, my boo. I love them.
Me too.
Who? Wait, what?
Suriel.
Oh, the Suriel.
That or the Bone Carver. I really love the Bone Carver.
I do like the Bone Carver.
The Bone Carver is cool because he's not necessarily good or bad.
Yeah.
And he operates by rules, which I always love. So he's like, I'll give you the truth, but you've got to give me a truth first. You know? It's not necessarily like the Suriel who's like, just give me a chicken bone and I'll tell you whatever you want.
He just floats along.
Yeah, like the Suriel is low-key like, you know, could babysit my kids. I'd trust him. But the Bone Carver, nah, dog, nah. So yeah, that's all I got, guys. I feel like it's been a whirlwind.
It's been good. It's been real.
We did it.
We shook the mountains. We rattled the stars.
For all, what is it? For all the stars who listen, to all the stars who listen,
and the dreams that answer.
We're those people. We know a quote by heart. I mean, you know a quote by heart. You know,
because it's everywhere.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed this one on the read through. I think I kind of got a little tainted, I'll say it, by the internet because people talk about ACOMAF and like how good it is all the time, and I'm just like, all right, y'all, pump the brakes. Like,
I think there's a lot in ACOMAF.
But there is a lot. I think that's why I'm saying, like, in this reread, it was great for me because I forgot how much happens. Like, it's so much that happens in this book. So
and I think with both of them, with both of these ones, or I mean, I feel like this whole series, it's like so many people talk about it constantly that like, and it has been like 3 years since I read it last, that I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it as much as I did the first, you know, 2 times around. Like my taste has changed, you know, it's matured, blah blah blah.
Well, especially
and I'm reading this and I'm like giggling and kicking my feet at parts and like just being like, oh my god, like crying and
well, because at the end of the day, like Sarah J. Maas does characters really, really well. Like we already know that. So it's like if you're 4 characters, the plot can be shaky. Like we know some things in this book are like really convenient, you know, like, or whatever. But like if the characters are good, we're gonna be like, oh my god, did you see that?
And that's when I learned that I am a character-driven reader.
Well, especially if there's like a mental health element, you know, like I really do think that that is just so great. It is done so well. You're like 100% correct.
I'm like, I could have those scenes where they're all just hanging out at the House of Wind and chatting and making fun of each other.
Yeah.
Those could go on forever, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah, me too.
Silly, goofy mood. That's why she wrote the novella, of course.
Yeah.
So FS, because she was like, yeah, they'll buy this. And she was right. She was right.
So right.
So we will pick up with ACOTAR, which I think technically like we should have started it this past Sunday on the 11th.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have a longer window for this one. So that's good. We're going to do the same kind of format where we'll post in the Discord. If you guys want to know where the links and stuff are, it will be in the Discord for this read along under the like general info tab. So just be on the lookout for that because it's not really going to be promoted anywhere else. But the live show will be on March 3rd. Y'all, can you believe it? March is coming.
It is. That's crazy.
Yeah, March 3rd around the same time. So get your reading on. You know, you've got 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. So has anybody started ACOTAR? I feel like I have not.
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna start until like 3 days before.
Which honestly, like, it's more fresh that way because I'm gonna tell you, I kind of forgot. I read ACOTAR like a few weeks ago or whenever. Kind of forgot.
I definitely read ACOTAR the day before we were supposed to do the original live stream. So
it's been some time. But I'm excited. I like books with war, so we'll see how it compares. Because I do think that the war in the Throne of Glass series was done really well. And I remember it not being as well in this one.
Yeah.
So that's the tea. Those are the updates. That's the info. Any last questions, comments, or concerns? Yeah, we're out of here. We're done with you guys. You know? Thanks for listening to us chat and make stupid jokes. ACOMAF and ACOTAR.
Yeah, I piss people off by saying therapy.
What?
Therapy.
Honestly, I think that's the new thing. Therapy.
No, don't. They said it didn't work, so.
Oh, like try and say it, therapy. Honestly, I'm saying fair, like with an F, but it sounds like I'm saying therapy.
I know. That's why I don't think you caught the amount of times that I said therapy.
Oh, I'm realizing that now.
But it doesn't work, apparently.
Well, it sounds exactly the same. I got fooled. I can't hear, so that's my bad. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Just being silly and goofy, you know.
Silly goofy mood. That's the vibe of this series, I think. Silly goofy mood. But yeah, okay. Well, that's the info. That's what's going on. We're gonna sign off. But thanks guys for listening and joining us for this. We will hopefully not have any more reschedules or live shows or things, but if they will, they'll be in the Discord. Okay, so make sure you're in there, following, keep an update, and also update while you're reading. Okay, because we do have channels for that for ACOTAR. Okay, we love you. We'll see you later. Have a great night. Be safe. Bye-bye.